Micah hesitated at my suggestion to ram the kid's RC car. Leo, I don't know, she said after a moment. His car is so small. He'll be upset if we break it. So what? I said, trying to pump her up. Everyone who races cars in this square has been crashed into before. She still wasn't convinced. I switched to a shadier tactic. Just pretend it was an accident. I mean, we have real car accidents all the time, right? All right, fine. She finally relented. She flicked the joystick, sending her car straight into the chubby kid's racer. It flipped over several times. The kid was instantly furious. He scooped his mangled car off the pavement and stormed toward Micah. I immediately abandoned the scene of the crime, watching with glee from a safe 50 feet away. The kid was, after all, just a kid. He didn't know the first thing about going easy on a pretty girl. He started smacking Micah's legs with his little fists, cursing under his breath. Micah kept apologizing, flustered, but he wouldn't let up. That's when I started to get annoyed. I dropped my cigarette and strode over. I lifted the kid by the collar of his shirt, set him down a few feet away, and said with a stern face, "Hey." She said she was sorry. "Are you going to drop it or not?" He was clearly intimidated, his eyes welling up with tears. "You guys are bullies. We're all just out here having fun," I said, my voice still firm. "What's the big deal? You've never crashed into someone else's car." Micah couldn't stand it. She slapped my arm. "Don't be so mean, Leo. He's just a kid." Seeing he had an ally, the boy's courage returned. "Oomph. Just because your car is bigger, you think you can just bully people? But you can't beat mine in a race. My car is the fastest." "You're on, kid. You think I'm scared of you?" I glanced at his car. It looked like a cheap piece of junk you'd get at a street fair, the motor probably topping out at 20,000 RPM. Mine was bigger, sure, but it also had a 30,000 RPM motor. Crushing him would be easy. "What happens if you lose?" the kid challenged. "You name it," I said, brimming with confidence. Micah tugged at my sleeve. "Leo, don't get into it with a child. You look like a complete idiot if you lose." I shot her a look that was supposed to be reassuring. The kid thought for a moment, then pointed to the McDonald's across the square. "If you lose, you have to buy me McNuggets." "Deal. Deal. Let's do this, kid." Time to feel the pain. We agreed on the rules. First car to the fountain railing wins. We lined them up. Micah, now the official referee, counted down. 3, 2, 1. The car shot off. But to my shock, the kid's little racer immediately left mine in the dust. "Holy crap," I yelled. "Is that thing on steroids?" The kid just gave me a smug look. In the blink of an eye, his car hit the fountain railing. I had lost. I'd been completely and utterly humiliated. The kid retrieved his car, a huge grin on his face. I snatched it from his hands and opened it up. It was a special edition Tamiya. The motor's RPM was a staggering 50,000. I silently handed the car back, my face burning. Micah was trying not to laugh. "I told you not to get competitive. Now look at you." The kid immediately sided with her, hands on his hips, radiating victory. "So, are you going to make good on your promise?" Micah chimed in. "You're not going to stiff a child, are you, Leo? The victor gets the spoils." "I lost," I admitted. "It's just McDonald's. I'll buy." Inside, Micah and the kid sat back and enjoyed the show while I navigated the crowded line to order for them. After a long wait, I brought the tray over and sat down next to Micah. The kid was practically vibrating with hunger and reached for a nugget, but Micah stopped him. She wrapped the base of a McNuggets box in a napkin and handed it to him. "We should wash our hands first, okay?" The kid nodded and took the box. Micah and I exchanged a glance, and I took a better look at him. His clothes were old and faded, and he wore a cheap digital watch with most of the color worn off. He probably didn't come from much. A fast food meal, something most people took for granted, was likely a rare treat for him. Micah and I just sipped our sodas, not feeling hungry. The kid ate with intense focus. "Hey kid," I finally asked. "What's your name?" "Wes," he mumbled before taking another bite. "Wes," I repeated, nodding. "Nice name." "Your name is Leo, like the sun sign," Micah mused. "And his is Wes. A sunny Leo, and Wes. It got a nice ring to it." Now that she mentioned it, I saw what she meant. I glanced at Wes again, but he was oblivious, still concentrating on his food. Halfway through, he stopped, flagged down an employee, and had the rest of his meal packed into a to-go bag. The move surprised both me and Micah. Before we could ask, he grabbed the bag and stood up. "I have to go home. My grandpa's waiting for me." We didn't try to stop him. "Don't get into any trouble on your way home," Micah said gently. Wes nodded. He thought for a second, then looked at me. "Your name's Leo, right? What? You memorizing it so you know who the easy target is next time?" I shot him a look. He just giggled. "So, you dare to race me again tomorrow? If you lose, you have to buy me McDonald's again." "No, wait. Tomorrow, we're getting KFC." I turned to Micah, dumbfounded. Can you believe kids these days? This little punk is already hitting me up for free meals. Micah just smiled. I turned back to Wes. You think my food is that easy to win? What happens if you lose tomorrow? I won't lose, he said, full of confidence. My dad bought me the best car ever. All right, I like the attitude. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you there's always a bigger fish. Listen up. Same time, same place. You lose, you're buying me and this lady here KFC. Deal. Wes thought for a second. Okay, but I'm not going to lose. I hope you don't, I said, giving him a dismissive smile. Good luck. He just snorted, said nothing more, and walked out, carrying his leftover McDonald's in one hand and his RC car in the other. As we watched him go, Micah and I looked at each other and smiled. Thanks to our random encounter, the afternoon hadn't been boring at all. After another minute, I stood up. Should we go? Where to? Micah asked. I grinned. You're coming with me to the hobby shop to buy a 100,000 RPM motor. I'm upgrading my car. Do you really think that's necessary? Micah asked, a little baffled after I announced my plan to buy the high-powered motor. You think I'm being childish, getting this worked up over a kid? Micah was quiet for a moment before answering. It's not childish. On the contrary, I think it's a way of hiding from despair. Her words stopped me cold. I tried to remember when I'd started becoming so frivolous. I could still pinpoint the exact moment. The sleepless nights on the verge of a breakdown after Ava and I split. I'd used my lottery winnings to buy that first RC car online. In the days that followed, I'd bought more and more toys, endlessly. I guess I had been desperate back then. Maybe Micah was right. All the childishness, all the pointless distractions, they were just a mask for despair. Her words hit a nerve. I automatically lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and asked, why would you think that? Another long silence. When she finally spoke, her expression was shadowed. Because I've been there. I know what that kind of despair feels like. It's why I learned to play guitar. I had to learn how to entertain myself. In that moment, I heard more than just my own old wounds tearing open. I heard hers too. Our despairs were different. Mine came from losing Ava, hers from losing her father, Marcus, but the pain was the same, a gut-wrenching agony. And so we had both retreated into self-made caves, finding new ways to soothe the scars on our hearts. So, I finally said, does that mean you'll indulge me in my childish, pointless behavior tonight? A sad smile touched her lips. Let's go. Let's go buy that 100,000 RPM motor. I hope you win tomorrow. After getting all the parts one needed at the hobby shop, we went back to the old house. I immediately threw myself into the complex work of modifying the car. To guarantee my victory, I stripped weight from the chassis, removed the bumpers, tweaked the battery housing, and swapped the tires for a smoother set. As I worked, the sky outside darkened. At some point, Micah brought over 2 bowls of instant ramen. You should eat something, she said, her voice pulling me from my hyper-focused state. You can work on it more later. I finally looked up at her and smiled. You're pretty good at this whole support crew thing. If I beat the kid tomorrow, I'll give you credit. And a big drumstick. Don't get too cocky. What if he goes home and modifies his car too? If he swaps in a high-speed motor, you still might not win. I snorted. Please. Not everyone knows how to do this stuff. And his car didn't have a single sign of being modified. Conclusion. Wes doesn't know how to mod cars. Micah smiled. All right then. My faith in you is restored. I nodded and took the ramen from her. We sat cross-legged on the floor, eating. For a moment, we were like 2 clueless kids, living a simple, fun life. The struggles of the real world felt distant. But I knew this carefree feeling wouldn't last. Once the night was over, we'd be thrown back into the painful vortex of survival. As we ate, Micah suddenly said, Leo, would you buy me an RC car? What kind do you want? But I should warn you, I can't afford anything too expensive. She thought for a moment. They sell them online, right? Let's look. I nodded, got up, and turned on my laptop. We sat at the desk, eating and browsing. I was only willing to spend around $50, but she, of course, fixated on a gas-powered, 4-wheel drive model that cost over $500. It was way beyond what I could afford. You're a beginner, I reasoned. Those gas-powered ones are really hard to control. Why don't you start with something simpler to practice on? She shook her head. I like a challenge. Then buy it yourself. You're rich. But I want you to give it to me. Don't make this difficult, okay? I seriously don't have the money. Her face fell. If you don't want to, just say so. That's not it. It's not that I don't want to. It's that I literally can't afford it. Seeing my distress, she laughed. Why are you taking this so seriously? I was just kidding. She changed the subject. What do you think about combining a traditional department store's brick-and-mortar sales with an online platform? How feasible would that be? Where did that come from? Did our online shopping just spark an idea? She nodded. I want to hear your opinion. It'd be tough, I said. There's too much to integrate. The platforms for physical and online retail are fundamentally different. Besides, e-commerce is already dominated by a few giants. Without massive capital and resources, you couldn't possibly compete with them. Micah nodded again, but didn't say anything more. Everything I could think of, she had surely already considered. But her question told me something. It revealed the chaos in Aria Grand's current business strategy and highlighted the deep rift between her and Declan's vision. Her interest in an online platform was proof she was desperate to break free from his control. Maybe a real battle between them was coming soon. By the time I finished modifying my car, the night was pitch black. Micah had already fallen asleep on my bed. I gently pulled the covers over her, then sat beside the bed, studying the car I had poured so much effort into. Looking at it, I smiled. Micah would probably never know the real reason I got so worked up over a kid. It wasn't because I was in touch with my inner child. It was because the bet with Wes gave me a legitimate excuse to spend another day with her. Lately, I've been agonizing over how to ask her out without my intentions being too obvious. I was afraid that if she sensed my motives, she'd pull away. But now with this, I had the perfect cover. I could take her out, have fun with her, and it would all feel completely natural. I sat back down at the computer and pulled up the webpage with the gas-powered car she wanted. I took out my wallet and counted what was left. Not even $300. I would never use the bar's money to buy her a gift, but I really wanted to give her that car. There has to be another way, I told myself. I pictured her face, lighting up with surprise when she received it. A genuine smile spread across my own face. Her happiness making me happy. Was this what it felt like to have a crush? That night, Micah slept in my bed, and I slept on the living room couch. The quiet darkness gave way to the morning sun. I woke up before Micah, but stayed on the couch, unwilling to face the cold. A few minutes later, she emerged from my room, fully dressed. She must have woken up during the night and gone back to her own room. She walked over to me. "You're not up yet? It's almost 8. I don't have a job to go to. Why would I get up early?" "Oh, well, sleeping a little longer then. What do you want for breakfast?" "I'm going down to get something." I wasn't thinking about breakfast. "Are you free this afternoon? We have a race with Wes, remember? Winner gets KFC. "I should be. My schedule isn't too packed today." I glanced at the calendar on the wall. "It's Saturday, isn't it? You have to go into the office." "Yeah, it's been crazy busy lately. And tomorrow I have to go to Seattle. The new Aria Grande store there's getting ready to open." "Oh," I said. I knew what that meant. Micah had caved to Declan on his major city strategy. Otherwise, the Seattle store wouldn't be in the works this quickly. While Micah was out getting breakfast, I got up. We ate together, and then she left for the office. I spent the whole morning tuning my modified car, ensuring I would absolutely demolish Wes that afternoon and reclaim my lost pride in front of Micah. Afternoon finally arrived, but Micah still hadn't called to confirm. I worried she was tied up with something important and didn't want to bother her. I just waited, my anxiety growing. By 4 o'clock, I was getting seriously antsy. In the winter, it starts getting dark around 5. I chain-smoked on the couch. Finally, my phone rang. I snatched it up instinctively. It was Micah. My heart leaped. "Are you done with work for the day?" I asked as soon as I answered. "Yeah, but I can't go to the square with you. A friend of mine from when I was studying in the States is back. He just landed at SeaTac, and I have to go pick him up." My heart plummeted. It took me a moment to respond, my voice flat. "Oh, well, I'll go by myself then." "Okay, I have to go," she said and hung up. Her haste made my stomach sink even further. For the normally composed Micah to be in such a rush to get to Seattle, this friend had to be someone special. And he must not have given her any warning, manufacturing a surprise. I found myself wondering about this friend's gender. If it was a woman, I could stay calm. If it was a man, I didn't want to think about it anymore. I lit another cigarette, then stuffed the RC car into a bag and left the house. When I got to Pioneer Courthouse Square, Wes was already there. He spotted me from a distance and yelled, "Leo, hurry up. I've been waiting forever." I walked up to him and smirked. "You're just asking for a beatdown, aren't you? You've already lost to me yesterday. You're going to lose again today." Ever heard the phrase, resting on your laurels? If you keep using yesterday as your benchmark, you're going to get destroyed today. I'm in a bad mood, so I'll give you one chance to back out now. "My dad bought me the best car," he yelled back. "I'm not giving up. You asked for it. Let's go." I pulled my car from the bag. Wes looked around. "Where's the referee lady from yesterday? Isn't she coming? This isn't the Indy 500. We don't need a referee. Now put your car down so I can annihilate you." "Fine." We placed our cars at the starting line. I counted down. 3, 2, 1. We both hit the accelerators. This time, the results of my modifications were immediate. The 100,000 RPM motor unleashed its monstrous power, leaving Wes's car far behind and reaching the finish line in an instant. Wes's mouth hung open as he stared at his car, then at me. His voice cracked. How could the car my dad gave me lose? My car is the fastest. You little dummy, ever heard of modifying? Your car has a 50K motor. How can it compare to my 100K? Even after my explanation, he just kept muttering through his tears, it's not possible. Dad said it was the fastest. Silly kid, there's no such thing as the fastest car, only a faster car. Your dad lied to you. Suddenly, Wes burst into tears. He started kicking my leg. You're the liar. My dad would never lie to me. He's my hero. Hey, are you trying to pull a fast one on me? Trying to get out of paying up? I said with a frown. The second the words left my mouth, Wes ran to the fountain, grabbed his car, and took off, his whole body shaking as he sprinted out of the square. You little cheat. I cursed and took off after him. He was a chubby kid. He didn't stand a chance. I caught him in a few strides. He struggled, crying, you cheated. Your car can't be faster than mine. Bullshit. Who plays with RC cars and doesn't modify them? Ugh. Why am I even explaining this to a kid? Now take your uncle to KFC. Don't you start learning to be a deadbeat at your age. Under my firm grip, he finally stopped struggling. His voice was still choked with tears. I don't have money to buy you KFC. Are you kidding me? You didn't have money yesterday when you made the bet. He was scared of me now. He stammered for a moment before saying, I thought I was going to win. And I thought I was Warren Buffett. Give me a real reason, or I'm taking your car as payment. The threat of losing his car sent him into a panic. He started struggling again, sobbing. Please don't take my car. It was a birthday present from my dad. He's dead. He's never going to give me another present again. I froze. I let him go and just stared at him for a long time. He was still wearing the same shabby clothes from yesterday, his pants too short to even cover his ankles. He'd clearly outgrown them long ago. I wasn't sure I'd heard him right. What did you just say? Your dad is dead. Wes nodded. He got sick and died. A wave of guilt washed over me. I, in my ignorance, had just desecrated a child's reverence for his dead father. It took me a long time to speak. What about your mom? Wes was silent for a while, then said with a bitter tone, she ran off with some jerk. My heart felt like it was filled with lead. I couldn't speak. Another poor kid, toyed with by fate. I suddenly remembered him taking the leftover McDonald's home for his grandfather. Maybe that was his only way of sharing a happy moment with him. Finally, I patted Wes's head and said softly, come on, I'll take you to KFC. I don't have any money. Just let me go, mister, he said, instinctively taking a step back. Who said anything about your money? It's my treat, I said with a small smile. He was still wary of me, clearly terrified. To put him at ease, I took a $100 bill from my wallet and pressed it into his hand. You hold on to this. You can pay with it later, okay? Wes thought for a second, then took the money from my hand, a smile finally breaking through. Okay, I'll give you the change back. I nodded, and we started walking side by side toward the KFC across the street. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out. It was a text from Micah. Party at CC's place tonight at 8. I want to introduce you all to my friend. My feelings were instantly a chaotic mess. And more than anything, I needed to know if her friend was a man or a woman. Once we got to KFC, I found a table while Wes went to order. A few minutes later, he came back with a tray and handed me the $30-odd in change. It wasn't dinner time yet, and my complicated feelings had killed my appetite, so I just chatted with Wes. I learned that he lived with his grandfather, and they got by on financial help from his uncles. Life was hard. Hearing his story made my heart feel even heavier. I felt a deep sympathy for the kid, burdened with a fate he was powerless to fight. The one saving grace was that he was still a cheerful kid, not letting the unfairness of it all crush his childhood. I pushed my food over to him and went back to the counter to buy a family-sized bucket. I have to go, I told him. You take your time. When you're done, go straight home, okay? No messing around. Okay, Leo, you're a really nice guy. I lost, and you still bought me food. I managed to smile. From now on, call me Uncle Leo. Just my name is disrespectful. I'm in 4th grade. I'm not a little kid. I'll call you Big Bro. I needed to get to the bar to check on the renovations and didn't have time to argue. Fine, Big Bro works. Can I race you again sometime? Let's skip the racing. But if you ever want KFC or McDonald's, you can give me a call. My treat. I tore a piece of paper from my notebook, wrote down my number, and gave it to him. Wes took the paper and said very seriously, when I have money, I'll treat you and the referee lady to KFC. I just smiled at his promise, not taking it to heart. I told him one more time to be good, then left. With my daily supervision, the bar renovations were moving quickly. At this rate, we'd be able to reopen in less than a week. That meant getting the word out to our target customers was now the most urgent task. Amid the noise of construction, I kept thinking, running through different marketing plans in my head, only to discard them for being too difficult to execute. Time slipped by. Soon, it was 7:30 p.m. Time to head to the Hollow City for Micah's get-together. I hailed a cab, and on the way, my mind drifted back to speculating about her friend's gender. The more I thought about it, the worse I felt. Micah told me it had to be a guy. There's a rule. Truly beautiful women rarely have many female friends. Other women get jealous, while men are irresistibly drawn to them. Take Robin, for example. Such a proud, deep-thinking folk singer. Yet at Micah's request, he'd tossed his principles aside to sing a sickeningly sweet love duet with her. Lost in thought, the taxi arrived. I checked the time as I got out, 7:50. Micah probably wasn't here yet. I walked alone down the dark alley to the Hollow City. I pushed open the door. CC was on stage, singing, with Robin backing her up on guitar. Seeing them like that made me happy for CC. Ever since she started helping out at the bar, she and Robin were spending a lot more time together. I believed that this small, incremental change would eventually lead to a major shift. If they ever did get married, they would make a lot of people believe in the purity of love again. Two such fiercely independent people would never measure their love or marriage by material standards. I found an empty table and sat down. Watching them on stage, my thoughts drifted to my other friends in Portland. It was like Ben and Nathan represented the pragmatic, realistic side of society, while CC and Robin were the idealists, representing a dream. Then I thought of Khloe, far away in L. She was a mix of both, a combination of social reality and emotional longing. These three types of friends had shown me the many faces of life. They had all influenced me, more or less, which only made me more confused about what kind of person I was. The one thing I knew for sure was that I hadn't been happy for years. After their song, CC and Robin came over and sat with me. "Leo, you're early," CC said with a smile. "Couldn't wait to meet Micah's friend?" "Not really." I paused. "Do you know anything about this friend of hers?" CC gave me a knowing smile. "Micah and I are best friends. We tell each other everything, including things you don't know." "Oh yeah," she continued, a playful look on her face. "So, do you want to know if her friend is a boy or a girl?" "They're just friends. What difference does it make?" CC ignored my answer and turned to Robin. "Did you catch that? What do you make of what Leo just said?" Robin looked at me, flicked the ash from his cigarette, and said succinctly, "Guilty conscience. What are you two playing at? A duet? You're both nuts. Who has a guilty conscience?" I tried to flick my own ash away and missed the ashtray. The clumsy move made them exchange a smile. In their eyes, my guilt was now a confirmed fact. I couldn't be bothered to argue with them anymore. I just smoked in silence. But as the minutes ticked by, I found myself caring more and more about the boy or girl question. I was too embarrassed to ask CC directly, and the suspense was killing me. Every second felt like a year. As if on purpose, CC dropped the subject of Micah and her friend and started talking about Khloe. "Leo, have you heard from Khloe lately?" "Not really. We've exchanged a few texts." "What about?" I thought for a moment. "I think she said her last movie is coming out on TV after the new year. A major network." I shook my head. "She didn't say. But those period dramas are usually big productions, right? The platform should be decent. It has some big names in it." CC sighed. "I really hope she gets her big break with this one. She's had it so tough. There was one scene where she had to jump into a lake at night. She refused to use a stunt double to make it look real. She had a high fever for days afterward. She's literally killing herself for her career." "When was this? How come I didn't know?" Robin picked up the conversation. "I know about that. It was right after she joined the cast." "Right after she joined the cast," I repeated, sighing. I immediately remembered. That was less than a month after her abortion. She was truly playing with fire, gambling with her own body. And I suddenly understood why she was so desperate to open the bar. She just wanted a safety net for her life, because the struggle in the entertainment industry was just too damn hard. Lost in thought about Khloe's pain, I fell silent. In my silence, the restaurant door opened. CC nudged me. "Leo, Micah and her friend are here." At CC's nudge, I turned around. Sure enough, I saw Micah, and walking very close to her, her friend. Her male friend, to be precise. And a handsome one at that. The guy was dressed like a trendy British import, tall and well-built with a sharp, handsome face. But the most unforgettable thing about him was his deep-set eyes, which seemed to look at everyone with a soulful affection. Micah affectionately pulled the man over to our table and introduced him with a smile. "This is my good friend, Abner." Just as CC and Robin were about to greet him, he looked between me and Robin and asked, "Which one of you is Leo?" We all exchanged glances at his unexpected question. I stood up politely. "That's me." "Next time, you be nicer to Betsy," he said, his tone sharp, "or you'll have to deal with me." I was stunned for a second, sensing a hostile reception. I was about to fire back when Micah quickly grabbed Abner's arm. That was a long time ago. Her words made me realize just how close she and this guy were. She'd even told him about me bullying her, framing it as a complaint. A sudden, unprovoked irritation flared up in me. I looked at Abner coldly. And you, Mr. World Traveler, you'd better be polite to me. I have a short temper. Abner glared at me. What, you want a duel? Seriously? That's some heavy-duty imported attitude you've got there. Did you fly that old-school Clint Eastwood routine all the way back from the States? Must be exhausting. Just say you want to fight. Come on. I'm right here. My face was a blank mask. The atmosphere instantly tensed. CC quickly grabbed my arm. Leo, can you please not be such a thug? He's a guest from far away. I don't get the feeling he sees himself as a guest. And I've never seen a guest act like this. I shot back. The moment the words left my mouth, Micah's tone turned harsh. I already explained everything to Abner for you. Can't you show an ounce of class? Being lectured by both Micah and CC made me feel even more pissed off. But I couldn't actually punch the guy. I just felt completely out of place. Fine, I get it, I finally said. I'm always the one nobody wants around. I'll leave, so I don't ruin your little party. I grabbed my jacket and walked out. CC followed me out of the restaurant and grabbed my arm. Leo, don't you think leaving like this is a really bad look? Can't you have some dignity? I ignored her grip and kept walking, trying to stay calm. If I didn't have any dignity, I would have already decked that preppy little globetrotter. But what will Micah think of you, just walking out like this? She already thinks I have no class. Look one more time. Why do you always screw up when it matters most? I stopped and faced her. What are you talking about, screwing up? You're getting way ahead of yourself. CC's expression was serious. Put your hand on your heart and tell me you don't like Micah. I said nothing. That's a yes then, isn't it? And it's pretty obvious that Abner guy likes her too. You storming out in a huff. Compared to him, don't you seem a little lacking? The difference is pretty stark. What are you, a psychoanalyst? Who told you I like her? Look, just go back inside. I have to get to the bar. There are some construction details I need to sort out. But CC wouldn't let it go. You really don't like her? She pressed. No, I don't, I said impatiently, shaking her off and heading for the street. As I walked away, I heard her sigh. You're just a coward. But I can't blame you. I mean, Abner is a master's grad from the University of Pennsylvania, comes from a better family. I hear he's the future heir to a family business. It's normal that you don't have any confidence. Before she could finish, I was already in a taxi. I rolled down the window and yelled, "None of my damn business," and told the driver to go. He floored it, and in a moment, CC merged with the streetlights, shrinking to a tiny dot in my rearview mirror. I didn't go to the bar that night. I went to the East Bank Esplanade by the Willamette River, laid down on the dead winter grass, and smoked, trying to exhale the frustration from my chest. Staring up at the stars and moon, I finally understood why I'd never dared to tell Micah how I felt, why I was content to just be her friend. Today, Abner's arrival made it painfully clear. A woman like her was destined to be the brightest moon in the sky. I was just an ordinary star. I couldn't even fulfill her wish for a gas-powered RC car. But Abner was different. Like CC said, highly educated, from a wealthy family. And Micah clearly cared about him. They were the ones who truly belonged together. I had already lived through the gut-wrenching tragedy of Nathan and Ava. Did I really want to go through it all again with Micah? I was an idiot, and I didn't want to repeat that pain. I was an ordinary star. My other half was destined to be an ordinary star, too. That way, I wouldn't get burned by a light that was too bright. I closed my eyes, and my world went dark. But then I saw it, that crystalline city, my city in the sky. Surrounded by a sea of stars, it grew brighter and brighter. But in its brilliant light, I shrank, growing smaller and smaller, until I watched helplessly as it carried that long-haired woman away, disappearing from my sight once more. I didn't want to open my eyes, because when I faced the real world again, I was doomed to be disappointed. I lay there for I don't know how long, the cold wind cutting into me. Then a familiar voice called my name. I opened my eyes. The scent of a woman I had etched into my memory drifted into my nose. Standing beside me was Ava. What are you doing here? Ava smiled faintly. Same as you. When I'm unhappy, I come here to sit. Her explanation made our chance encounter feel not so random after all. She saw this place as a refuge, too. It was inevitable that we'd run into each other here. If not today, then tomorrow. Seeing her only deepened my sense of loss. I couldn't stop myself from pulling a cigarette from the pack, lighting it, and taking a deep drag. Why are you unhappy? I finally asked. You were here first. First come, first served. Let's talk about you. I was silent for a long time. Life beat me up, I finally told her. So I'm unhappy. She smiled again. That's a bit of cop-out. Everyone's unhappy because life beat them up. I want to hear the specifics. Another long, heavy silence passed before I finally worked up the courage to ask her, after we graduated, did you look down on me for being just a guy struggling on the fringes of society? Ava seemed surprised by my question. She just looked at me, and my anxiety grew because her answer could be the real reason we broke up. A look of pain crossed Ava's face. She stared at me for a long time before finally asking back, look down on you? If I looked down on you, would I have fought with my family, run away from Seattle to live with you in Portland, eating instant ramen and takeout every day, wearing cheap clothes I bought online? I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was as if time had collapsed, and I was back in those days we spent together 3 years ago. That winter, we'd huddled around a single space heater for warmth, shared a single bag of chips while watching TV for fun. Yes, I was that poor back then. I couldn't afford a place with proper heating, didn't have the spare cash to take her to a movie. But she stayed with me, listened to me play Pearl Jam's Rearview Mirror on my guitar, and cried because she was so moved. I fought to control my emotions. After a moment, I said to her, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you that. But why did you break up with me? Her expression turned distant. It took a long time before she answered. Her voice choked. We both made mistakes, and my mistake was bigger, so big that we had to break up. What mistake? I asked desperately, suddenly terrified that it had all been a misunderstanding. She shook her head. Don't ask. We've been broken up for 3 years. Whatever the truth is, it's meaningless now. If you insist on knowing, it will only make us feel the pain all over again, twice as hard. I'm not afraid of the pain, I said through clenched teeth. I want the truth. Why didn't you want it 3 years ago? I'm with Nathan now. We might even get married soon. Do you really think there's any point in knowing now? I couldn't finish. Logic told me she was right. For us now, the truth would bring nothing but pain. In the silence, the cold wind whipped up waves on the river, making the neon reflections on the water tremble nervously. My mood mirrored that chaotic movement, panicked and unsteady. Ava finally spoke, her voice low. It's because the world is so messy that we have to find a beautiful dream to hold on to. Leo, I will always be silently wishing you the best until you find that beautiful dream. I couldn't understand what she was trying to tell me. I wanted to ask more, but she was already standing up to leave, turning her back on me in the most final way possible. It was as if she was telling me that everything from the past was destined to be washed away by the years, a memory not worth dredging up. But what was this beautiful dream I was supposed to be searching for? Was it the city in the sky? The beautiful, long-haired woman in it? I couldn't be sure. The night suddenly felt bottomless. I should go back. It's only when you can't see the dawn that you see your truest dreams, and my dream definitely wasn't here, in this river flowing with illusions. When I got back to my place, my mind was a wreck. I opened the door and was surprised to see a pair of women's winter boots on the shoe rack. Then I saw Micah sitting on the couch, reading a file. I suddenly remembered our unpleasant encounter at Cece's restaurant a few hours ago. Was she here for a rematch? I walked over to her. What are you doing here? It's my apartment. Am I not allowed to be here? Didn't you rent it to me? Micah put down her file and looked up at me. I did rent it to you, but have you paid me any rent? You said last time I didn't have to, that I could just buy some plants for the house. What? Are you going back on your word now? Micah glanced around the room, her tone cool. So where are the plants you bought? I haven't had time yet, but I'll definitely get them. No time? You seem pretty free to me. You have time to play with RC cars. I was now certain she was here to pick a fight over Abner. I felt a surge of annoyance. I like playing with RC cars. I don't feel like buying plants. What about it? So you're just a classless, unreliable deadbeat. You'll never change. Her cold sarcasm made me feel even more cornered. I stared at her for a long moment, then exploded. Fine, I'm a deadbeat. I have no class. Only your friend Abner is a perfect gentleman. Is that it? Why are you comparing yourself to him? Right? Why was I comparing myself to him? I felt a flash of guilt. It's none of your business who I compare myself to. Just tell me why you're here. I let Abner stay at my place. Where else would I go? Her answer stunned me. Did that mean she wasn't comfortable staying under the same roof as Abner, but she didn't mind staying with me? So you don't mind staying here with me? I asked immediately. I do mind, which is why you're going to a hotel tonight. You're staying in a hotel for the next few days. My brief hope turned to humiliation, which quickly turned to anger. I took a few steps until I was right in her face. On what grounds? Why don't you make your precious friend get a hotel? I'm telling you, I'm not going anywhere. You. Micah was so angry she couldn't speak. The tables had turned. I pressed my advantage. Don't even try. Let's be logical about this. You rented this place to me, which means you don't have the right to use it right now. As for the plants, you never gave me a deadline. I'll buy them tomorrow. So, Whether or not you get to stay here tonight is up to me. So you want me to be homeless? I smirked. You're not going to be homeless. You're so rich, you just go to a 5-star hotel. It's different for me. If you kick me out, I'd either be in some cheap motel or literally on the street. Her tone finally softened. Don't make yourself sound so pathetic. It's not an act. You've seen how I've been living since we met, haven't you? Micah fell silent, as if she was actually thinking back on how pathetically poor I'd been since she'd known me. After a long moment, she said, fine, I'll go to a hotel. She picked up her handbag from the couch. I snatched it from her and put it back down. It's so late. Can we just stop this nonsense? It's not like we haven't stayed here together before. Just go wash up and go to sleep. Don't you have to be in Seattle tomorrow? How did you know I'm going to Seattle tomorrow? You told me this morning. Now go to bed. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. That's better than any hotel, right? Micah looked at me and, surprisingly, nodded obediently. She went to her room to change, then went to the bathroom to wash up. The long night had exhausted me. I sat on the couch and lit a cigarette to ease my fatigue, completely forgetting that Micah was still in the apartment. If she saw me smoking in the living room, she'd start lecturing me all over again. Luckily, Micah took a long time in the bathroom. I finished my cigarette, opened a window, and the smell of smoke quickly dissipated. Everything was back to normal, except for the unease that hadn't drifted out with the smoke. My mind was full of the image of Ava walking away. Micah finally came out of the bathroom. Even without a trace of makeup, beauty was etched onto her face. In the quiet of the night, she seemed unreal. A woman shouldn't be this beautiful, I thought. She should be more ordinary. Leo, who won the race with Wes today? I did. Oh, that 100,000 RPM motor must be pretty powerful. It's all right. Micah didn't seem to notice my reluctance to talk. So did he buy you KFC? No, I bought it for him. But you won. Knowing you, I can't imagine you'd let the kid off so easily. Her words brought me back to Wes's lonely life. My thoughts refocused. I patted the couch next to me, signaling for her to sit. She sat down, her curiosity piqued as to why I would treat him. In a low voice, I told her Wes's story. As I finished, I looked at her and saw that she was crying uncontrollably. It was only then that I realized how similar their stories were. The difference was that Micah had material wealth to cushion the blow, while Wes had nothing but a grandfather he depended on. I pulled a tissue from a box and handed it to her. She wiped her eyes, but kept crying, her shoulders shaking. It was the pain of shared experience. I immediately regretted bringing it up. In the dead of night, a woman crying so vulnerably next to me was torture. I had no idea how to comfort her. The night makes everyone too emotional. Helpless, I said, if you don't mind, you can borrow my shoulder for a little while. She actually leaned against me, her sobs growing louder now that she had something to hold on to. I understood what she was feeling. She was tired. She desperately missed her father, Marcus. If he were still alive, Declan wouldn't be running Arya Grand into the ground, and she wouldn't be facing this brutal corporate battle all alone. She would still be a princess, protected by her father. After a long time, she finally lifted her head from my shoulder, leaving a damp patch on my jacket. She pulled out a tissue to dab at her own face and said apologetically, I'll get your jacket dry cleaned when I have a chance. Don't worry about it. I don't mind your tears. Her emotions had steadied a bit. She looked at me and said, you know how it is when you really cry. It's not just tears. You mean you got snot on my jacket, too? When you're that sad, who's paying attention? So yeah, sorry for getting your cool jacket dirty. I looked down at my jacket and sighed dramatically. You know, now that you mention it, this jacket is pretty damn cool. We both laughed, our only way to ease the heavy mood. After the laughter died, we fell silent again. Joking was a temporary relief. The pain was etched into our bones. After a while, I finally asked, that guy Abner, I'm guessing he was there for you during the worst time of your life. He must have helped you a lot, right? Micah nodded. Yeah, he's the one who taught me how to play guitar. I don't know how I would have gotten through that time without him. I was silent, a pang of envy in my chest. If I had met Micah back then, I thought I would have taught her guitar too. She smiled faintly. I guess I'm pretty lucky. I had him as a friend in the States, and when I came back, I met you. And through you, I met CC and Robin. You've all been so good to me. My heart sank. Maybe she didn't feel anything special for me. I was just one of her friends. I hid my disappointment and forced a smile. Don't let time heal all wounds. Have I been that good to you? I seem to remember throwing your sheets and comforter out. But you wouldn't do that now, right? Don't be so sure. Relationships are built on understanding, bit by bit. Back then, I wanted to turn you in to the police. But now I don't feel that way at all. You're still the same you, but I understand you better now. I had to agree with her. I was struck by the depth of her thoughts. She might seem aloof, but her inner world was as rich as mine. While I was observing and trying to figure her out, she was doing the same to me. But what had changed us? I hoped it wasn't just because I had helped her once. I hoped it was the slow accumulation of small moments of daily life that had brought us here. The night deepened, and Micah grew quieter. Looking at her, my tired heart suddenly fluttered. In that moment, I wanted to forget all the painful memories. I wanted to tell her how I felt, but I couldn't open my mouth. I felt like she had no reason to be my girlfriend. If she were to find a boyfriend, it should be Abner, rich, handsome, and the one who had comforted her through her darkest days. My expression must have been a mess of conflict. Micah watched me, a quizzical look on her face. "Leo, is there something you want to say to me?" She watched me, waiting patiently. Her breathing seemed to quicken, or maybe it was just my imagination. I was too nervous to tell. You're gonna get my jacket dry clean, right?" I finally blurted out, taking it off and tossing it to her. Micah caught it. She held it for a moment, then said, "You had to be that hesitant to ask me about this?" Well, how else was I supposed to say it? She didn't answer. She folded the jacket neatly and placed it on the coffee table. After a long pause, she said, "It's getting late. I'm going to bed." "Oh, okay. You should get some rest, too. And hey, when I get back from Seattle, let's go find Wes together. I want to help him." "Yeah, no problem," I said quickly. Micah looked at me for another second, then stood up and walked to her room, leaving me alone again in the empty living room. I rushed to the balcony and lit a cigarette, my heart pounding with fear and relief. I had held back, thank God. In the dead of night, people are driven by emotion, and any confession born from that kind of raw feeling is just taking advantage. I didn't want to be that kind of stain on her life. But really, I was just terrified of the pain of being rejected. After finishing my cigarette, I went back into the living room. The faint, feminine scent of Micah still lingered in the air, but the impulse to confess my feelings to her had already faded. As long as I wasn't looking at her, I could be rational. After washing up, I shut down all my emotions and lay down in bed. The things I couldn't figure out, I chose to forget. It was easier that way. Sometimes I really didn't want to live so damn seriously. The next day, I got up early, but Micah was already up before me. I didn't get the chance to make her breakfast, but I was already looking forward to her coming back from Seattle that afternoon. I could make her dinner, or even a late-night snack. With the bar closed, I had nothing to do all day. I thought about making good on my promise to buy some plants, but I abandoned the idea. I'd rather use the little money I had to buy Micah that gas-powered RC car. My plan was to sell my own modified car, which was pretty decent now, and use that money plus what I had on hand to afford the gas-powered one. I opened my laptop to post the car for sale online and saw, by pure chance, a listing for a gas-powered car. I checked the specs, all top-of-the-line parts, but the seller's request was strange. He wanted to trade it for a battery-powered car. I contacted him immediately. It turned out he'd bought the gas-powered car for his son, but it was too difficult to handle, and the kid couldn't control it. He didn't want it to just sit there, so he was hoping to trade for a battery-powered car for his son to practice on. Of course, there would have to be some cash on top, since the price difference was huge. We agreed to meet in front of the Audiogram Mall. I gave him my car, plus $300, and the deal was done. Holding the gas-powered car in my hands, I was ecstatic. My joy came from imagining Micah's joy when she saw it. I found myself looking forward to her return that evening even more. I couldn't wait to give it to her. I pulled out my phone and sent her a message on WhatsApp. "Are you coming back tonight?" A moment later, she replied, "No, Aber came to Seattle too. We're going to hang out here tonight." The message was like a bucket of ice water to the face. My heart sank, but there was nothing I could do. Micah had no obligation to spend every day with me. She had her own friends. I looked at the RC car in my hands and let out a bitter, helpless laugh. I didn't reply to her message. I just put my phone back in my pocket. Today was Robin's turn to supervise the bar renovations, so I was even more at a loss for what to do. I took the new car and headed to the square to show it off, hoping to shake off the disappointment of Micah not coming back. It was dusk when I arrived, the busiest time of day at the square. I saw couples locked in passionate embraces, stealing kisses. I saw young parents watching their kids play, their faces glowing with contentment. All this happiness only made me feel more alone. I had to hide behind a tree to smoke, afraid of getting caught and fined by a park security guard. After finishing my cigarette, I stepped out from behind the tree, placed the car on the ground, and started playing by myself. The car's impressive performance quickly drew a crowd of kids. Amid their chattering excitement, my mood finally began to lift. I held up the car to the group of kids. "Listen up. If you want to play with my car, you have to call me Big Bro. Whoever says it the loudest gets to go first." Instantly, one particularly impressive kid planted his feet, gathered his energy, and yelled, "Big Bro," with an explosive force. He yelled with such gusto that I couldn't go back on my word. I handed him the remote, but I was terrified he wouldn't be able to control it and would break the car I planned to give to Micah. I watched him like a hawk. After a few of the kids had taken a turn, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and took the car back, sitting down on a bench. Watching the kids, still buzzing with excitement, I thought of Wes. He didn't seem to be at the square today. I scanned the area and, surprisingly, spotted him in a corner on the other side of the square. It looked like he had set up some kind of small stall. I couldn't see clearly, so I got up and walked over. When I got to him, I saw him sitting on a small stool. A few newspapers were spread out in front of him, displaying a collection of hand-woven baskets. He spotted me, and his face lit up. "Leo, you're at the square again. What did I tell you to call me last time?" Wes giggled and corrected himself, calling me Big Bro. He politely offered me his stool. I looked at the baskets. "Did your grandpa make these?" "Yep, $10 each. You want to buy one?" "You little hustler." He pouted, his voice dropping. "Nobody's bought one today." I didn't want him to be disappointed. I pulled a $10 bill from my wallet and handed it to him. "All right, I'll take one. They're really nice." Wes took the money, his smile returning. "Big Bro, you're such a good person. If I had as much money as you, my grandpa wouldn't have to weave baskets every day." "What makes you think I have money?" "You do. You can afford to eat at KFC and McDonald's." His childish innocence made me sad. In a world where celebrities made tens of thousands for a single appearance, here was a kid who thought that being able to afford fast food meant you were rich. I didn't know which part of society that was a more damning indictment of. I sighed heavily, hating my own powerlessness. The only help I could offer Wes right now was to buy him KFC and a single hand-woven basket. I decided I had to do more. I went home, got my guitar, and came back to sit next to his little stall, playing the part of a wandering street musician. Soon, a crowd started to gather. Some people, feeling sorry for Wes, bought a basket. Others, after listening to a song, tossed some spare change my way. In that twilight, Wes and I made a little money. The sky finally darkened completely, the temperature dropped, and the crowd in the square thinned out. I gave all the money people had given me to Wes, packed up my guitar, and was about to leave when I saw a graceful figure walking toward us from a distance. I couldn't see clearly at first, but as she got closer, I realized it was Micah. She had come back from Seattle. But why? Wasn't she supposed to be with Abner? I stared, dumbfounded, as Micah approached. Wes let out a gasp beside me. "Whoa, Big Bro. The referee lady is here." "I'm not blind." "Settle down. Don't just yell things." Wes stuck his tongue out at me, a classic kid move. Micah was in front of us now. She was still in her business attire, as if she hadn't had time to change into warmer clothes. In the cold of the winter evening, she looked even thinner. The sky was completely dark now. I figured there wouldn't be any more security guards around, so I brazenly pulled a cigarette from my pocket and lit it. Taking a drag, I asked her, "Weren't you supposed to stay in Seattle with Abner?" "I had a feeling you needed me for something important." Answer caught me off guard. "What makes you say that?" "Because you rarely contact me first, and when I messaged you later, you didn't reply. I figured you were disappointed and upset about something. You're pretty petty." I immediately pulled out my phone. Sure enough, there was a later message from Micah, asking if something was wrong. But I had been in the middle of the noisy square, playing with the car and singing. I hadn't heard the notification at all. I held my phone up for her to see. "See? I didn't even open your message. So it's not because I'm petty. I just didn't hear it." As I said it, a strange feeling washed over me. The last time, when I was in Indianapolis, I'd almost driven back to Portland overnight when I couldn't reach her. This time, she thought I was upset and had driven all the way back from Seattle. Seattle was a lot closer than Indianapolis, but it was still enough to show that she cared about me. "Leo, wake up. Don't get ahead of yourself." I immediately warned myself. "Then I guess I'm misunderstood," Micah said. She paused, then added, "I told you yesterday I'd help you find Wes. I thought that's what you were messaging me about. I wouldn't have come back otherwise." Her words made me glad. I'd warned myself not to be delusional. She had only come back for Wes, who shared her pain. That's why she'd come looking for him at the square. Before I could say anything, Wes looked at Micah, confused. "Referee lady, why were you looking for me?" Micah patted his head. "Because I want to help you, sweetie." A joyful look spread across Wes's face. "Then you should buy one of my grandpa's baskets. Leo said they're really pretty." At that moment, I didn't bother correcting Wes for calling me Leo. I pushed Micah's hand off his head and put my own there, speaking in a meaningful tone. "Kid, you need to think bigger. The person standing in front of you is a super naive, super rich lady. Buying you a whole KFC franchise would be nothing to her." Wes's jaw dropped. Micah glared at me. "Am I really that naive? You're not exactly a genius." I was mercilessly teasing her. If she was naive, there probably wasn't a smart woman left on earth. But before I could say more, a park security guard appeared out of nowhere and yelled, "Hey you, the one smoking. Put that out." She started marching toward me, looking like she wouldn't be satisfied until she'd fine me $100. I threw the cigarette on the ground and said to Micah and Wes, "KFC, I'll meet you there." And with that, I slung my guitar over my back and was gone. A few minutes later, the three of us met at KFC. I said, a little smugly, "See, I'm pretty fast, right?" Micah shot me a disdainful look. That was a panicked escape after breaking a rule. "Why do you sound so proud of yourself? You're so weird." Her words stung. "Did you breathe in any of my secondhand smoke? If you did, you're my accomplice. You're no better than me. Your logic is as weird as you are," Micah said, looking at me like I was a lost cause. Wes, standing between us, chimed in. "Big bro, you shouldn't have run. That lady was about to find the referee lady." I looked at Micah. "You paid it. What else was I supposed to do? I'm not as fast as you." I ignored her sarcasm and said with a sly smile, "See, that makes you my accomplice. Why else would you pay my fine? My logic is perfectly sound. And I wasn't wrong when I said you were naive and rich, was I? I was contributing to the state's tobacco tax. Why should they find a good citizen like me? Aren't you tired from running so fast? How do you still have the energy to talk so much nonsense?" Micah shot back. I just laughed, unfazed. Now that you mention it, I am pretty tired. Let's go eat. Your treat." After we ate, Micah and I drove Wes home. He and his grandfather lived in a rundown block of low-income housing, a part of the city you rarely see anymore. The living conditions were terrible. We couldn't even drive the car in. We had to walk. On the way, Wes told us they used to have a house, but they sold it to pay for his dad's medical bills. Even so, they couldn't save him. Hearing this, Micah's expression grew even more somber. We finally reached Wes's home. He led us around obstacles and into a low-ceiling house. There, under a dim yellow light, we saw an old man weaving bamboo baskets. It was his grandfather. A crutch lay beside him. One of his legs curled uselessly. His weathered face was a road map of wrinkles, as if a lifetime of hardship had been carved into his very bones. After Wes explained who we were, the old man struggled to get up to pour us some water. We quickly stopped him. I was sure Micah felt the same crushing weight on her heart as I did, because she immediately pulled a thick stack of cash from her handbag and gave it to him, telling him to let her know if he needed anything. The old man thanked her profusely, but we all knew that living on handouts wasn't a long-term solution, and Wes was still too young to do anything for his family. After chatting with his grandfather for a while, Micah and I left. We walked out of the neighborhood in a heavy silence. It wasn't until I was sitting in her car that I finally spoke. "You can help them for a while, but you can't support them forever. I think instead of giving them fish, we should give them a fishing rod." Micah nodded thoughtfully. "Do you have an idea?" "Depends on if you're willing. If it can help them, of course I'm willing," she said, her expression serious. I gathered my thoughts. Wes's grandfather has a skill. He can weave. I think we can package what he makes as a product and set up a counter for it at Aria Grand. That would solve their income problem at its root, wouldn't it? After I proposed packaging the grandfather's crafts to sell at Aria Grand, Micah's face was thoughtful. "Do you have a more specific plan?" she asked after a moment. "My idea," I began, "is to set aside a small space in the mall, just big enough for a display case. Then, we use the media to report on it. There are 3 benefits to this. First, it boosts Aria Grand's reputation, since it's a charitable cause. Second, it raises awareness for disadvantaged groups. And third, it provides real help to them. In a city this big, there have to be kind-hearted people willing to spend a little money on these handicrafts. The goal isn't huge profits, just enough to cover their living expenses. Also, I suggest we install a monitor above the display case. We can hire a production company to create a short documentary series and have it play on a loop, giving people a more direct look at the lives of people who are struggling. With Aria Grand's influence, this shouldn't be too hard to pull off, right?" Micah nodded. "Yes, I'll have someone get on this as soon as possible." "It's a good idea." I was worried your uncle would object. She nodded again. "Yes, it's a small thing, but it's not profitable. He's a businessman, and he hates things like this. But if we frame it your way, it really will improve Aria Grand's brand image. Even if he has objections, he won't be able to voice them." Her explanation made me dislike Declan even more. But the world is full of heartless businessmen like him, and they're the most frightening kind. In that moment, I understood Micah's exhaustion on a deeper level. Micah drove me back to my place. I unbuckled my seatbelt, but she made no move to get out of the car. "Abner's not back. Are you planning on staying at your apartment tonight?" I asked. "I have to go back to Seattle. I promised Abner I'd be back. It's already 8:30. You don't have to go tonight, do you? Seattle's not far." It's only an hour or so. Even though I was worried about her driving while tired, I knew she was a woman of her word. I couldn't stop her, and I had no right to stop her from going back to Seattle to be with Abner. All right then, I finally said, a little disappointed. Drive safe. I will. I looked at her one more time, hoping she'd change her mind, but her expression told me she was determined to go. I opened the car door to get out. Just then, Micah let out a cough. It sounded like she was coming down with a cold. And why wouldn't she be? Her health was already delicate, and she'd been running around with me in this freezing weather in thin business clothes. You're getting sick? It's nothing. It is something. Get out of the car. You think you can drive at night when you're sick and can't concentrate? I said firmly, but I didn't feel lucky that fate had given me this opportunity. I was genuinely worried about her health and safety. But, no buts. If that Abner guy can't even understand this, I'll drive to Seattle right now and punch him in his preppy face. Can you please not be so crude? I ignored her complaint and touched her forehead. It was slightly warm. My resolve hardened. Get out of the car. She was still hesitating. Do I have to carry you out? You wouldn't dare. Micah was clearly wary of that kind of physical contact. I didn't want to force her, so I just looked at her, giving her one last chance to get out on her own. She was still hesitating. I flung my door open, jumped out, and before she could lock the doors, I sprinted to her side, yanked her door open, snatched the keys from the ignition, unbuckled her seatbelt, and pulled her out of the car, lifting her into my arms. The whole sequence was a single, fluid motion. What are you doing? She yelped, grabbing my collar in a panic. Taking you home, to get you better. I kicked the car door shut with my foot. I expected her to demand I put her down so she could walk, but she suddenly went still, not struggling, not saying a word, as if she was just waiting for me to carry her upstairs. I was holding her in a very awkward princess carry, and it was taking a massive effort. Let's switch positions, I grunted, or I can give you a piggyback ride. No, she said, wrapping her arms tightly around my neck. So there I was, putting on a brave face, maintaining the same awkward hold as I started up the stairs. Jesus, how are you so heavy? I complained as I staggered upwards. Each step felt like it took all the strength I had. Most women would hate being called heavy, but Micah didn't seem to care. She remained silent, a silence born of absolute confidence in her perfect figure. The truth was, even if I were carrying a child up 5 flights of stairs in this position, it would be exhausting. I was reaching my breaking point, but I didn't want to lose my masculine dignity. I gritted my teeth and kept climbing, feeling my face flush with the effort. I finally made it to the 5th floor, my arms aching so badly they didn't feel like my own. She still hadn't made any move to get down. We're here, I prompted. You can get down now. But then her true colors showed. That'll teach you to take advantage of me, she said. Serve you right for being exhausted. You're so sneaky. Now get down. I really can't hold on anymore. You have to promise you won't take advantage of me again. Can we please not use the phrase take advantage? You're not my boyfriend. You holding me like this is taking advantage of me. Wow, that's rich. If I'm taking advantage of you, why are you clinging to me for dear life? Well, you've already done it, so I might as well make sure you learn your lesson. I was about to reply when the apartment door suddenly opened. Standing in front of us was the warden. Micah and I instinctively let go of each other. In our utter shock, I forgot to call him by his nickname. Dad, I stammered. WH what? What are you doing here? The warden looked at me, then at Micah, who was staring at the floor. Business trip, he said after a long moment. Why didn't you call me? I didn't want to bother you at work. And the key was still under the doorframe. In my extreme embarrassment, one rational thought managed to surface. Why? When coming to Portland, did my dad assume I would still be living here? Did he really think I had come back to Portland just for Micah? I glanced at Micah. Under the dim hallway light, her face was as red as an apple. She was trying to suppress a cough, looking like she'd been caught doing something terribly wrong. The warden looked from me to Micah, then back again. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. I finally summoned the voice of a perfect gentleman, a voice that felt utterly fake coming out of my mouth. Dad, I started trying to sound casual. Micah, comrade Micah. She got a bit of a cold, so I was just, doing the neighborly thing. I trailed off, the words catching in my throat. The warden just nodded slowly. I thought she'd sprained her ankle. His deadpan delivery hit us like a physical blow. The implication was crystal clear. A cold? And you're carrying her like she's a war hero? Micah and I stood there, frozen in a state of terminal awkwardness. He didn't torture us any longer. I made some chili for a late-night snack. Come on in and eat. With that, he turned and went inside, leaving us alone in the hallway. Micah and I finally faced each other. I told you to walk up on your own, I muttered. You insisted. Happy now. You jerk. Hold on. Are you cussing me out or my dad? Whoever was carrying me. I carried you out of the car. Did I say I was going to carry you all the way up to the apartment? As we bickered, the warden's voice floated out from inside. Are you two going to stand out there all night? Comrade Micah, didn't you say you had a cold? Don't make it worse. Inside, the warden had already ladled 2 bowls of his famous chili. You guys have any cold medicine here? If not, I can run to the store. I turned to Micah. Did you finish that medicine I bought you last time? There's still some left, she mumbled, her head bowed, still trapped in the mortification of the moment. In her mind, she was a prim and proper young woman in the warden's eyes, and he'd just caught her clinging to me like a limpet. The warden nodded. All right then. You two eat. I'm going to get a room at the motel. Leo, after you finish, make her some ginger tea. Dad, you're not staying a little longer? I want to talk, I said, getting up. After the whole fiasco with Liz, I knew he and my mom were beyond disappointed in me. I wanted to say something, anything, to make him feel better. We'll talk tomorrow. I'll come by at noon to make you lunch. Oh, well, let me walk you out. Don't bother. The motel's right across from the complex. You just remember to make Micah that ginger tea. A cold, no joke. You ignore it, it'll settle in your bones. He turned and walked out the door. I whispered to Micah, aren't you going to come down and say goodbye to my dad? You go. I can't imagine what he thinks of me right now. It's so embarrassing. Good. You should be embarrassed, I said, seizing the opportunity to tease her. You've basically shattered my father's entire worldview. He definitely thinks less of you now. So forward. Micah stayed silent. A long moment passed. Then she let out a soft sigh, followed by another. The sound of pure regret. After seeing the warden off, I went back upstairs. Micah had already disappeared into her room, leaving her bowl on the table. I crept to her door, pushing it open just a crack to peek inside. A single night light cast a dim glow. She was already in bed, wrapped in her comforter, probably without even washing up. I opened the door and walked in. You didn't even wash your face. Why are you already in bed? Not in the mood. I put on a stern face. That's not good behavior. You're supposed to be a goddess, remember? I'm not a goddess. I'm a head case. Why would you say that about yourself? If I wasn't a head case, why would I let you carry me? Oh, you're still stuck on that. I said, try to lighten the mood. So you were clinging to me for dear life, and my dad happened to see it. It's not the end of the world. He didn't say anything bad about you. Don't overthink it. It's all your fault. I was defenseless against her petulance. Fine. It's all my fault, I conceded. Look, don't go to sleep yet. I'm gonna make you some ginger tea. Drink it, then you can sleep. I already took cold medicine. You caught a chill. You need the tea to sweat it out. The medicine and the tea will be a 1-2 punch. It's the only way to be sure. I was trying to be patient, coaxing her like a child. I don't like ginger tea. The taste is too strong. It's not like you get a cold every day. 1 cup isn't going to kill you. I don't want it. I switched tactics, dangling a carrot. Be good. If you drink it, I'll give you something fun. That finally piqued her interest. What kind of fun thing? Something you'll definitely like, I said confidently. Of course she would. She'd already asked me to get her a gas-powered RC car once before. Fine. I'll drink it. That's the spirit. Your body is your own. You have to take care of it. You just lie there. I'll go make it right now. As I turned to leave, she reminded me, don't forget about the fun thing you promised me. I was speechless. The woman was obsessed. You'd think this toy was more important than her own health. It made me think of how cold and distant she was when we first met. I couldn't help but marvel at the power of time. It had worn us both down, made us more real, more ourselves. And compared to the ice queen she used to be, I much preferred this version. At least she didn't feel like she was on another planet, a distant shore I could only gaze at across an impassable sea. Half an hour later, I brought the freshly brewed ginger tea into her room. She was on the phone. From the sound of it, she was talking to Abner. She told him she had a cold and couldn't come back to Seattle, but promised she'd make time to see him another day. When she hung up, I handed her the mug and asked, trying to sound casual, so the Ivy League turtle is mad you didn't go back to Seattle? He's not mad. He has other friends in Seattle. Right. See? I told you it wasn't worth rushing back for. He's probably living it up at some club right now, a girl on each arm. Micah frowned. What do you mean, a girl on each arm? Whoa, where'd your mind go? I meant something completely innocent. You know, a friend on his left, a friend on his right. Just friends. I never said anything about special services. You're disgusting. And not funny. Drink the tea first. Once you cure your cold, your insults will be much sharper. You're just so noble. Without my nobility, what would highlight your cynicism? Tired of my banter, she took the mug and forced down a few sips. So, where's this fun thing you promised me? Finish the tea, then you get it. Let me see it first. How do I know you're not lying? No, I'm negotiating. I said you'll get it when you're done. A man of my sterling reputation wouldn't lie to a sick woman. More like a sterling reputation for lying. You're saying I can tell 9 lies in a single sentence? Is that a compliment? Not even a master linguist could pull that off. Stop joking around. If you don't show me first, I'm not drinking anymore. I wasn't about to get into a real fight with a woman throwing a tantrum. I caved. Fine, fine, fine. I'll go get it. Just try not to cry from sheer joy when you see it. As Micah demanded, I went to my room and retrieved the RC car I traded for her. Holding a flashlight like a spotlight, I tried to create a sense of dramatic flair for its grand entrance. Micah sat up in bed, her face alight with anticipation as she eyed the newspaper-wrapped gift. I waved the flashlight around, coughed theatrically, and announced in a magician's voice, "And now, you are about to witness a miracle." Her eyes were glued to the package, her expression even more eager. Then I abruptly switched off the flashlight. "Guess what it is?" I said in a completely normal voice. Micah bit her lip, glaring at me. She grabbed a pillow from her bed and threw it at me. "Can you stop being so obnoxious? You're ruining the mood." I'd die if I wasn't obnoxious. She seemed genuinely angry this time. She flopped back down, rolled over to face the wall, and pulled the covers over her head, refusing to speak. "Hey, I was just messing with you. It's not that big a deal, is it?" "Yes, it is. I've never met anyone so juvenile. Dealing with you is emotionally exhausting. We're both juvenile, okay? Did you forget how you were clinging to me just a little while ago? And my dad saw everything. I only act juvenile because you infected me. You're in the terminal stage of immaturity. You're a lost cause. So you're saying you can still be saved?" I asked, playing along. "Duh. As long as I stay far away from you, away from the pathogen, there's still hope for me." It wasn't a particularly hilarious line, but coming from her, it made me want to laugh. I suppressed a chuckle and nudged her. "Fine, I'll stay far away from you. But are you sure you don't want the present I got you?" "Don't want it. You wouldn't give me anything decent anyway." "You never know." I tore off the newspaper, revealing the car. I started the engine, and the roar of the powerful motor filled the room, followed by the distinct smell of gasoline. Just as I predicted, she sat up again, staring at the RC car for a long time. "Well, pretty cool, right? It's yours. Leo, you actually bought it. No need to get all emotional. I'm just glad you like it." She held out her hands toward me. My heart skipped a beat. Was this it? The hug of overwhelming gratitude? I couldn't accept it. Deep down, I was still a respectable man. As I braced myself, she broke the spell. "Give me the remote." It felt like a bucket of ice water to the face. I stared at her, stunned, before finally saying, "The room's too small to play with it, and the gas smell is too strong. Then let's go outside." I killed the engine and said, very seriously, "You can forget about that tonight. Drink your tea, and then get some sleep." This time, to my surprise, she was completely obedient. She picked up the mug from her nightstand, drained it in a few gulps, and then lay back down quietly, just watching me. I felt a little uneasy. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I stammered. "This car must have cost you every penny you had, didn't it?" she asked softly. "Not every penny. I traded my own car for it, plus some cash. I still have spending money," I explained quickly, afraid she was about to offer me money. That would ruin the whole point of the gift and make me look like I was living off her. "You traded your own car?" "Yeah, it's no big deal. I was sick of that old thing anyway," I said with a smile, but my heart sank. I remembered buying that car with the lottery money I'd won during one of the darkest times of my life. It felt like a judgment on my soul, a verdict on my life. Now that I traded it away, I was determined to see it as a new beginning. Micah didn't say anything else. I took her empty mug and left the room. After washing it, I stood on the balcony in the cold wind and lit a cigarette, a familiar ritual. In the swirling smoke, I thought about the days since I returned to Portland. It felt like in this short time, I had fallen in love with Micah. But it was a love that didn't make any sense, and I was afraid it was shallow. After all, a woman like Micah possessed a beauty that was impossible for any man to resist. So it was love, really? And where did it come from? I couldn't figure it out. Maybe love was just a colorful butterfly. Beautiful to look at, but you could never get too close. If you tried to hold in your hand, it would struggle, and in the struggle, all its beautiful colors would rub off, leaving it pale and broken. I think I was starting to understand why I was being so cautious. I was afraid of touching her soul and accidentally wiping away all that beautiful color. I laughed without humor and looked up at the sky. The moon was beautiful tonight, its light seeming to tell me love stories that were thousands of years old. I felt myself transported into those brilliant legends, only to watch them fade and lose their color with the passage of time. So maybe it was better to numb all desire, to let things happen as they may. Even if you don't have a lover, you can still sing to the moon. I took a deep drag from my cigarette and stubbed it out. Pushing all my emotions aside, I went back to Micah's room. She was already asleep. I tucked the covers around her. In that moment, I didn't want anything from her. I just wanted to be the man who quietly stood by her side, protecting her magnificent, colorful wings. The next morning, when I got up, Micah had once again deprived me of the chance to make her breakfast. She was already gone, but she'd left my jacket on the chair, the one she'd taken to be dry cleaned. I remembered. She had spent the day in Seattle yesterday. That meant she'd taken my jacket with her all the way to Seattle to have it cleaned. A small warmth spread through my chest. She was thinking of me. I told myself not to ask for more. These small joys she gave me were a reward more precious than gold. Around noon, just as he'd promised, the warden showed up with bags of groceries, ready to cook lunch. He asked if Micah would be coming home to eat. I was wondering the same thing, so I called her. She was in Portland, but she refused to come back for lunch. She said she was too embarrassed to face the warden, but she also didn't want to miss his cooking. She asked if I could bring her a plate at Aria Grand after I was done eating. I tried to convince her that the warden wouldn't think less of her for the clinging incident, but she wouldn't budge. I'm a girl, after all, she said. My skin isn't as thick as yours. This only confused me more. Why did she care so much about what he thought? It was almost as if she were my family's future daughter-in-law. A moment later, while I was still on the phone with her, the warden suddenly emerged from my room holding the photos I'd stolen from Micah's office. Leo, he asked curiously, is this girl in the pictures Micah? I quickly covered the phone's microphone. Where did you find those? I hissed. They fell out of a book while I was tidying up your room. You should put these in a frame. They'll fade if you just leave them in a book. As he spoke, he went back into my room, earnestly looking for a picture frame. I was still processing what had happened when I heard Micah's cold voice through the phone. Leo, did you steal those photos from my office drawer? Don't you dare accuse me of that. Besides you, nobody would dare touch anything in my office. I suspected it all along. Leo, are you even a man? You have the guts to steal, but not the guts to admit it. The moment she questioned my manhood, I snapped. Yeah, I stole them. So what? They're just a few pictures of you pouting and glaring, looking like you've been poisoned or something. Micah was silent on the other end of the line for a long time. It was the silence of pure rage. I suddenly felt like a complete degenerate. I not only stolen her photos, but had then insulted her to her face. Leo, you can insult me all you want, I don't care. But you're going to explain why you stole my photos. Faced with her demand, I faltered. If I didn't like her, I wouldn't want her photos even if she gave them to me. But I couldn't tell her my real motive. After a moment, I tried to deflect. As the old saying goes, stealing photos isn't really stealing. Are you assuming I didn't go to elementary school? The saying is about stealing books, not photos, she said, her tone growing sharper. Right? But books are printed to be looked at, and photos are taken to be looked at. The principle is the same. Micah, look, what I said about your photos, about you looking poisoned, that was a little harsh. I finally managed my voice softer. The truth is, you're really beautiful, and those pictures are adorable. You know, I never get to see you like that in real life. So those photos I stole, they're very precious to me. Micah was quiet again. When she finally spoke, she didn't mention the photos. Just remember to bring me lunch later. Call me when you get here, and I'll come down and meet you. She hung up, leaving me dazed. Did she just say she was going to come down and meet me herself, not send her assistant? I hadn't misheard. I was sure of it. A little while later, the warden had lunch ready. I told him Micah was busy with work and couldn't make it, and that I'd take it to her office later. He just nodded calmly. I realized Micah was worried for nothing. If my dad really thought she was my girlfriend, he wouldn't have cared if he'd found us sleeping in the same bed, let alone just carrying her. This was the 21st century, after all. Over lunch, we started talking. My main concern was my mom. How's mom doing lately? She's even playing less mahjong. That answer, so typical of the warden, hit me hard. Giving up Liz had really disappointed my mom. I understood her desperate wish for me to get married, and in her mind, Liz was the perfect candidate. After a long silence, I finally asked, have you been fishing less lately, too? Who goes fishing in the middle of winter? I fell silent. I meant it as a joke to lighten the mood, but it seemed to have just made things worse. The warden took a sip of whiskey. Leo, what's Micah's family situation? The question confirmed it. He really did think Micah was my girlfriend, and that I'd given up Liz for her. That explained why he was so much calmer about it than my mom had been. It didn't matter what he thought, and there was no reason to hide what I knew about Micah's family. I told him everything. When I finished, his expression was grave. What about her mother? He asked after a moment. I paused. It occurred to me that Micah had never once mentioned her mother, and I hadn't felt it was my place to ask. I shook my head. I don't know. She's never talked about her. That girl's had it rough, the warden said. You need to treat her right. If you have time during the holidays this year, Bring her back to Indianapolis with you. She shouldn't be all alone here in Portland. I tested the waters. Dad, you really don't mind her family situation? And our families aren't exactly on the same level. I've always believed that your relationships are your own choice. That's why I accepted it when you went back to Indianapolis and chose Liz, and I can accept it now that you're back in Portland living with Micah. The important thing is before you make a choice, you have to really think about whether you can go the distance with the girl and then build a good life together. What happened with Liz can't happen again. You really hurt that girl. I said nothing, silenced by guilt. The rushed relationship with Liz was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I had been incredibly selfish, hoping she could save me from my misery, and then selfishly failing to be the boyfriend she deserved. Thinking about it now, Liz was the only woman I had truly wronged. The warden was right. I had to learn from it and not fail another woman who might come into my life. After lunch, the warden packed the untouched portion of the meal into a thermal container. Take this to Micah, he said. I have to catch the 1 p.m. train back to Indy, so I'm heading out. I thought you were going to stay in Portland for a few more days. Got my business done. There's work waiting for me back at the office. Okay, be safe on the way back, I said. He nodded and picked up his old-fashioned briefcase to leave. On impulse, I called out to him. Dad, what is it? Don't you think I'm not good enough for Comrade Micah? I don't even have a decent job yet. The warden looked at me, a rare smile touching his lips. I have faith in my son. Work hard. Be someone Micah can rely on. Don't let that girl suffer anymore. His words made my eyes burn. He had never looked down on his good-for-nothing son. His words gave me a strange and powerful motivation. I would work hard. I would fight to leave the old me behind. And just like that, he was gone, taking his misunderstanding with him. I didn't explain because any explanation would have sounded like a lie. After all, Micah had come to Indianapolis to find me. After all, I had moved into her apartment when I came back to Portland. After all, I had secretly kept her photos. And after all, he had seen her clinging to me last night. All of it, taken together, was enough to make me believe the illusion myself. The illusion that Micah was by all rights my girlfriend. I got into my little Chevy Spark, my prince, and sped toward Aria Grande. It was just after 12 prime lunchtime. Because I called ahead, Micah was already waiting for me at the visitor check-in desk when I arrived. I quickly signed in and we walked together, chatting, but neither of us brought up the photos. I figured that after my rambling, nonsensical explanation, Micah no longer had the energy to argue about it. And now I could possess those limited edition photos openly. As we walked down the hallway toward the general manager's office, a group of people came around the corner. Leading them was a middle-aged man with some gray in his hair and sharp, chiseled features that made his age hard to guess. He radiated a powerful aura, and the people trailing behind him looked timid and submissive. We met in the middle of the hall. He stopped, looking me over, a faint smile on his stern, almost gloomy face. Micah, he said, his voice smooth. Is this a friend of yours? From the way he addressed her, I knew immediately. This had to be the infamous Declan. Micah smiled politely at Declan's question. Yes, a friend. Declan returned her smile. The men behind him respectfully greeted Micah with a President Micah. She gave them a slight nod. Declan, then, turned his attention back to her. I'm heading to Boston for a conference for a few days. Keep a close eye on things in Seattle for me. He glanced at me again. I felt a deep, instinctive dislike for the man, but I managed a small smile in his direction. At the same time, Micah nodded at him. You should take care of yourself too, Uncle. Don't work too hard. Declan patted her shoulder reassuringly before he and his entourage swept toward the exit. As he walked away, I watched his back, feeling that he was even more formidable than I'd imagined. And Micah, standing before him, seemed so fragile. It wasn't even a fair fight. Of course, that was just judging by appearances. Micah had her own methods, or she wouldn't have dismantled his last scheme against her in a single week. Still, from their interaction, it was clear they hadn't truly declared all-out war yet. They were in a state of delicate equilibrium, each holding the other in check. It was hard to say who would ultimately win control of Aria Grande, but my gut told me Declan had the upper hand. His roots in the company ran far too deep. I followed Micah toward her office. What were you really thinking? I asked, trying to sound playful, when you told him to take care of himself. I wasn't thinking anything. No way. After everything he's done to you, you really wish him a long life? Then again, they say only the good die young. Micah stopped and frowned at me. I won't have you talking about him like that. I was shocked by her reaction. It took me a moment to respond. He hardly deserves you defending him, does he? Her expression turned somber. After a long pause, she said, he's still my uncle. I looked at her, frustrated by her answer. In the ruthless world of business, that kind of kindness was a fatal flaw. But what could I say? A woman as educated and strong-willed as her wasn't going to have her values changed by me. Besides, it was easy for me, as an outsider, to despise Declan's character. But the fact remained, he was her family. When we got to her office, I made myself at home, plopping down in her executive chair. Then, I brazenly opened her desk drawer and pulled out the rest of the photos I hadn't managed to steal, examining them closely. "Leo, don't you think it's rude to go through someone's drawers?" Micah asked, her voice laced with annoyance. "I know, but you're always saying I have the maturity of a grade schooler, so it's only natural my self-control is a little weak." She shot me a weary look, as if I wasn't worth the energy, and went back to eating her lunch. Out of boredom, I upped the ante, taking her camera from the desk and snapping a series of pictures of her while she ate. It was a petty abuse of power, but I was enjoying every second of it. After stuffing the newly acquired photos into my pocket, I finally got serious. "Comrade Micah, have you started working on the plan to get Wes's grandfather a kiosk in a mall?" Micah nodded. "I told the planning department to draw up a proposal this morning." She paused, then asked, "By the way, have you had any ideas for the marketing and promotion for the bar's reopening?" I sighed. "Not yet. You know how it is. With the overall marketing climate being so bad, a lot of creative ideas are just impossible to implement." Micah nodded. "It's definitely a difficult challenge. But isn't that what sharpens you?" I smiled wryly. "If you were willing to be the resident singer every night, I could build a sensational marketing campaign around you with almost no resources." A half-smile played on her lips. "I could sing there, as long as you pay my performance fee." I knew she was joking, but I played along. "Name your price. Money is no object for me. The problem is you have no money, right? You know me too well. But doesn't talking about money kind of hurt our feelings? We're friends, after all." "Who's friends with you?" She shot back reflexively. I ignored it. "If we're not friends, then what are we? I'm a landlord. You're the tenant. Is that all?" Micah looked up, meeting my eyes. She held my gaze for a long moment before saying, "What do you think?" "Actually, that definition works fine. I'm your male landlord, and you're my female tenant." Even though I deliberately mixed up our roles, Micah remained characteristically detached. She didn't say anything more, just went back to her food, but I felt a pang of disappointment. If we were just a landlord and a tenant, why did I feel this constant, nagging pull toward her? The rest of the afternoon, I was at the bar, supervising the construction. The renovation was more than halfway done. It wouldn't be long before we could reopen with a new look. That was a good thing, something we were all looking forward to, but it also made me anxious. I still had no marketing ideas. If this continued, I was afraid that even after sinking all this money into the remodel, the bar would just go down the same old road and die a slow, painful death. I didn't think I could handle that kind of failure. Too many people's hopes were pinned on this place. And the best way to pay back the $50,000 I owed Ava and the $100,000 I owed Micah was with the bar's profits. I was worried that Khloe, under the weight of her own heavy debts, would go down the wrong path. Of all the women I knew, she had the most volatile temperament. That evening, I was playing with the RC car in Pioneer Courthouse Square, feeling a profound sense of loneliness. A loneliness that I knew would stretch late into the night, because Micah had gone to Seattle on a business trip, which meant she would naturally be spending the evening with Abner. The thought of them together created a knot of discomfort in my stomach. I knew I shouldn't feel this way, but who can control their own thoughts? So I started reprimanding myself, but in doing so, I only felt more alone. As darkness fell, I packed up the car, ready to leave. Just then, I got a text from CC. She told me to check the entertainment news. I was surprised, but I pulled out my phone. There on the entertainment section, a news site, in a fairly prominent position, was a story about Khloe. The headline claimed she had spent the night in a hotel with a famous male actor, hinting at a new romance. Of course, the real draw of the story was the famous actor. Khloe was still a newcomer with no name recognition. I couldn't be sure if the story was true. I immediately dialed Khloe's number, needing to hear it from her. I hoped it was just a publicity stunt, but if it was, why would they choose Khloe, a virtual unknown? She had very little publicity value, and her status in the industry was worlds apart from the actors. It didn't fit the usual pattern for a PR stunt. As the phone rang, I grew more desperate to know the truth. After what felt like an eternity, Khloe finally answered. "Leo, why are you calling me all of a sudden?" she asked, sounding surprised. Anxious for an answer, I cut straight to the chase. "I saw the entertainment news today. I just wanted to ask if it's true." She was silent for a moment, then laughed. "Of course not. You know my show is about to premiere. This is just the standard pre-release hype." Even though she gave me a plausible explanation, I was still skeptical. Even if it's for publicity, shouldn't they be promoting the main female lead? "That washed-up hack? What's there to talk about with her?" Khloe said contemptuously. "I may not be the lead, But I'm one of the main actresses, and I'm younger and prettier. Creating buzz around me is way more valuable than anything they could get from her. Oh, by the way, I officially signed with a production company. They're planning to push me as their new rising star next year. The venom in her voice when she talked about the lead actress made me realize she was probably the one who had slapped Khloe. I fell silent. The entertainment industry has always been a ruthless arena of fame and fortune. The sacrifices required to make it are unimaginable to most people. Maybe I shouldn't be focusing on this PR stunt. Maybe I should be genuinely congratulating her. After all, signing with a production company was a form of security in that world. As I stayed quiet, Khloe spoke again. Leo, I have to go. I have a dinner meeting to get to. Okay, I won't keep you then. I expected her to hang up, but she paused. After a long moment, she said, thanks for caring about me. I'll never forget that little island across the sea or the man who built a fire for me there. Just remember it, but give up on ever finding it again. She let out a sad laugh. The world is like a field of soap bubbles. Once you see through their phoniness, you lose the desire to chase after something as unattainable as sincerity. You should understand, once I stepped into this circle, my life wasn't my own anymore. She didn't give me a chance to respond. She hung up, leaving me in a daze. How had she managed to land a contract with a production company in such a short time after moving to L? And how had she gotten opportunity for a publicity stunt like that? Maybe she had already chosen her path, but I couldn't judge whether it was the right path or the wrong one. There was no right or wrong, only different perspectives. To an outsider, it might seem like a mistake, but from the perspective of the entertainment industry, it was simply the path of survival. I sighed and put my phone back in my pocket. The sky had become boundless darkness. I walked toward the city's lights, and in the overlapping shadows and brilliance, the world slowly transformed into the field of soap bubbles Khloe had described. So fragile, so fake. How could I, a soul adrift in these same bubbles, possibly blame her? On the way home, CC called. Leo, did you talk to Khloe? Yeah. What did she say? CC asked, concerned. She said it's just pre-release hype for her new show. Oh, and she signed with a production company. CC was quiet for a moment. I know, she told me. As her friends, we should just be happy for her. It's a pretty big company. At least she'll have some stability now. Yeah, I murmured, my emotions a tangled mess. Oh, one more thing, CC said, as if just remembering. Khloe also helped Robin land a gig. He's writing the theme song for a movie that's in pre-production. He's probably heading to L. Tomorrow to discuss it. So you'll have to handle things at the bar. Really? That's an incredible opportunity for him. That's great news. I can handle the bar by myself, no problem. CC laughed. What do you mean by yourself? You've still got me. But seriously, I'm so happy for Robin. I heard the movie Khloe hooked him up with is a major production. I hope he seizes this chance. He's struggled for so many years. Yeah, I hope both he and Khloe make it big in that world. Back in my apartment, I lay on my bed, smoking, with no appetite for dinner. The image of the simple, innocent Khloe I once knew kept flashing through my mind. I couldn't imagine what she would be like the next time we met. Maybe a mature woman, surrounded by the aura of stardom. It was 9 o'clock, and I finally felt the pangs of hunger. But I didn't have the energy to cook a proper meal, so I grabbed a packet of ramen from the kitchen, planning to just make some noodles. While I was eating, I got an unexpected call from Ben. His voice was low and dejected. He asked me to meet him for a few drinks. When I asked what was wrong, he hung up. I assumed he and Jenna had gotten into a fight. Forgetting my ramen, I grabbed a cab and rushed to the restaurant where we'd agreed to meet. Ben was already there when I arrived, a bottle of whiskey on the table, drinking by himself in sullen silence. I sat down across from him. What's wrong? Did you and Jenna have a fight? He poured me a glass and motioned for me to drink. Wanting to know why he'd called, I downed the whiskey in one go and waited for his answer. Ben drained his own glass and let out a heavy sigh. Mr. Clark might be finished at the company. Someone in upper management is coming after him. I was stunned. I never would have guessed that Ben had called me about Mr. Clark, and it was even more shocking to think that a seasoned veteran like Mr. Clark could be taken down. He was a boss who had helped me immensely, a man I respected. What happened to him? I asked, deeply concerned. You remember Mr. Roberts, the executive VP at Polaris Retail? Of course. Ben sighed again. Mr. Clark never got over losing that VP promotion last time, so he went after Roberts. You know how these executives all have some skeletons in their closets. Clark dug up some dirt on Roberts' personal life and reported it to the general manager, but I finished his sentence for him. But the GM protected Roberts, and Roberts found out that Clark was the one who came after him. Ben nodded. Yeah, Clark was too impatient. Even though Roberts' behavior was unethical, it didn't affect the company's bottom line. Given his position, the most he'd get from the board is a warning, nothing serious. I understood the whole story now, and I was filled with a profound sense of guilt. I knew that Mr. Clark, with his usual caution, would never have made such a rookie mistake. He only did it because his age meant his chances for promotion were dwindling. So he took a huge risk going after the EVP, and tragically he failed. Ultimately, Mr. Clark's failure was indirectly my fault. If I hadn't ruined his chance back then, he would be the rightful vice president of Polaris Retail right now. He never would have had to resort to such a desperate move, only to end up in this precarious situation. Ben was silent for a long, long time. Finally, he said, "If Clark goes down, I won't be able to stay at Polaris either. Leo, at a time like this, I have to prepare a way out for myself and for him. I hope you can help us." It took me a moment to process his words. "How can I help?" "Introduce me and Mr. Clark to Aria Grande. With your relationship with Micah, I'm sure it won't be a problem. Besides, Aria's new mall in Seattle is about to open, so they must be short on mid to high-level management. And with the resources Mr. Clark has built up over the years, he could be a real asset to Aria. It would be a win-win for both sides." Ben finished speaking and looked at me expectantly, waiting for my answer. I lit a cigarette, weighing the situation. Honestly, I hoped Mr. Clark and Ben could get jobs at Aria Grande. They were both exceptionally talented and could become valuable allies for Micah. After all, her position at the company wasn't entirely secure yet. She needed to build her own power base. Finally, I said to Ben, "I'll talk to her." "What are the chances?" I shook my head. "It's hard to say. Just do your best. You know, in all of Portland, there are only two major department stores, Aria and Polaris. If I can't get a job at Aria, I'll probably have to leave the city. I really don't want to, not unless I have absolutely no other choice. It wouldn't be fair to Jenna. Ugh, I'm out of options. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking you for this, putting you in a tough spot." I clapped him on the shoulder. "We're brothers. Don't talk about being put in a tough spot. Don't worry. I'll make sure to explain everything to Micah and try to get you guys a good position at Aria. Your experience and Mr. Clark's reputation speak for themselves. I'm sure Micah will see it as a good thing for her, too." Ben nodded. "All right. I won't say thank you then." I smiled, then remembered a crucial point. "By the way, if I go to Micah, there's no way we can keep what happened last time a secret from Mr. Clark. You'll have to help me explain it to him someday. I don't have the face to see him myself. Let's not rush the explanation. If we can get the jobs at Aria, he'll be more receptive when we tell him then. If it doesn't work out, there's no point in telling him at all. We'll just take that secret to our graves." I had to admit Ben thought things through. If I went to Mr. Clark now with an explanation before anything was settled, he'd have a hard time forgiving me. But if I came to him after securing him a new position, it would be a form of restitution, a way to soothe the wound. I left the restaurant with a heavy heart. When I got home, I was about to call Micah to give her a heads up, but then I saw her shoes by the door. I heard the sound of the shower running from the bathroom. She had come back from Seattle tonight. I sat on the sofa and waited. A few minutes later, she came out of the bathroom, freshly showered, and walked over to me. "Where did you just go?" "A friend called me out to talk about something." "Why are you back from Seattle?" "I thought you were supposed to be with Abner." A complex expression flickered across Micah's face. After a moment, she asked, "Leo, are we good friends?" I was taken aback by the sudden question, but I nodded. "Of course we are." "Then I should probably tell you." I was even more baffled. "Tell me what?" But she fell silent again, as if the words were too difficult to say. A sense of unease and impatience grew inside me. "Just say it," I urged. Micah finally mustered the courage. "Abner proposed to me today." A wave of emotion crashed over me. It felt just like that day at Jenna and Ben's wedding when Nathan proposed to Ava. A sharp, undeniable pain pierced through my chest. Forcing a smile through the ache, I said, "I thought you liked him, so this should be a good thing, right?" "You really think so?" she asked, her eyes fixed on me. I desperately wanted a cigarette, but I couldn't light one in front of her. It would betray my true feelings. If she really accepted Abner's proposal, I would be miserable for a long time. Seeing my silence, she sighed, as if talking to herself. "Ugh, why do friendships with the opposite sex always have to get weird after a while?" Her generalization wasn't entirely fair. My friendship with CC, at least, had never gotten weird. Micah sat down next to me, her train of thought suddenly jumping tracks. "Leo, if we're friends for a long time, are you going to pull a stunt like Abner?" You didn't like what he did?" I asked, managing to deflect. "I don't know." Her dazed answer gave me a moment to breathe. I quickly put on my relationship expert hat. "Have you never liked a guy in all these years?" Her expression clouded over again. "I don't think so," she said after a long pause. After my dad passed away, I sort of lost interest in everything. In that moment, I finally understood why she was so cold. Before her father died, she was probably just like any other girl. She would have laughed, she would have been playful. After another long silence, I probed again. Was his proposal not creative enough? Did it not move you? She shook her head. He recorded all these moments we spent together on a camcorder. Today, he rented out an entire movie theater. It was filled with flowers and balloons. And then, in that theater with just the two of us, he played all those videos. I was very moved. So dramatic, I muttered under my breath. What did you say? So romantic. I quickly corrected myself. She nodded, as if still replaying the scene in her mind. And then? Did you accept? I asked, my nerves on edge. Micah looked at me again, her gaze intense. After a moment, she said softly, and then, I ran back to Portland. An image of Micah fleeing the movie theater flashed in my mind. But that didn't mean she didn't like Abner. At the very least, she hadn't rejected him. Her attention just hadn't been on romance. So his sudden proposal had caught her completely off guard. After another silence, I asked, still puzzled, so you came back to Portland? Why did you come here instead of going to your other apartment? My head is a mess. I wanted to talk to someone. Is that okay? Then why didn't you go find CC? Micah's expression immediately soured. She grabbed her handbag from the coffee table. Since you're so unwilling to talk to me, I'll just go find CC. I don't feel like talking to you anymore anyway. I hadn't meant it that way. I just thought it would make more sense for her to talk about this with CC, since they were both women. I grabbed her arm as she tried to leave. What is this bad habit of yours? I say one wrong thing and you run for the door. That's a princess complex, you know that. She pulled her arm free. Why are you always so harsh with me? She demanded, her voice rising. And then, so good to me? What kind of emotion am I supposed to use to face you? I froze. I had never known how she saw me. To think I made her feel so conflicted. But it wasn't intentional. Being harsh or kind to her felt like a primal instinct, just like falling for her. It didn't have a reason. It just was. Speechless, I completely bypassed the topic of Abner's proposal and adopted a serious expression. Don't get mad at me just yet. I have something serious to talk to you about. Micah looked at me, waiting. I finally gathered my thoughts, trying to figure out how to bring up the matter of Ben and Mr. Clark wanted to jump ship to Aria Grant. Now that the moment was here, I found it surprisingly difficult to bring up the topic of Ben and Mr. Clark. Micah, however, waited patiently. After a long pause, I finally began. I have a friend, Ben. He works at Polaris Retail. You probably remember him, right? Go on, Micah said. Her tone was light, but it carried the authority of her professional persona. I paused again before continuing. He and my old boss, Mr. Clark, have run into some trouble at Polaris. They're thinking of jumping ship to Aria Grant. I wanted to see what you thought. Micah didn't answer right away. She was cautious. What kind of trouble? The usual. The kind you run into after you lose a power struggle. Micah nodded, not seeming too surprised. Power struggles were an unavoidable part of corporate life. Some people profited, while others ended up fading away. Like Mr. Clark. If no one threw him a lifeline, he might lose heart and leave the industry altogether, especially given his age. And Ben would likely have to leave town. The corporate world was cruel. Or, to put it more broadly, life was cruel. We were all unwilling participants in a complex, competitive world, greedily drinking the blood of others to feed our own ugly desires. Do you want them at Aria Grande? Micah finally asked. Of course I do. And I think it would be a mutually beneficial arrangement. Micah smiled faintly. I've reviewed Mr. Clark's resume. He has a lot of experience in this industry and has made significant contributions to Polaris over the years. I'm curious what kind of power struggle would make their upper management willing to lose such an excellent mid-level manager. Her follow-up question only reinforced her executive presence. Her mind was sharp, her logic tight. After a brief silence, I countered, do you have some reservations? Not reservations, exactly. I just want to understand the whole story. If they come to Aria, it will affect our personnel structure. It pays to be cautious, don't you think? I nodded. Her saying that meant she was seriously considering bringing them on board. So I told her the whole story of what had happened to Mr. Clark at Polaris. When I finished, Micah fell into a thoughtful silence, clearly strategizing. After a while, she said, how about this? You arrange a time for me to meet with them. Okay. I agreed immediately, a wave of relief washing over me. Given her position at Aria, her willingness to meet them meant the deal was very likely to go through. Is there anything else of a serious and proper nature? She asked. I didn't quite understand her meaning. No, that's it. Just that one serious thing. Micah picked up her handbag. Then I'm going to CC's. It's so late. Are you planning on staying there tonight? She replied, her face expressionless. She was clearly still upset about my suggestion that she talk to CC about Abner. CC lives in a studio. She only has one of those little twin beds. Want to be a bit crowded? Is that so? Of course. I've slept in that bed several times. It's tiny. 2 people would be really uncomfortable. You slept in CC's bed? Several times. I instantly realized my mistake. It was only after I got blackout drunk. I explained hastily. CC's a good person. She had to take me in. But she always slept on the sofa in the living room and gave me the bed. Your life is a mess. I frowned. Don't drag CC into this. Don't spread rumors. I mean, your life is a mess because you get blackout drunk. What did you think I meant? Seeing the hint of a smile on her face, my mind was pulled back into that shameful period of my life. After my breakup with Ava, I had gotten wasted at CC's restaurant almost every night. That's why she'd had to take me in so many times. Micah was right. A life spent oscillating between sobriety and drunken oblivion was, indeed, a mess. I fell silent. Micah didn't press the issue. She stood up from the sofa, handbag in tow, and walked out the door. And just like that, she was gone. It was probably for the best. At least now I could smoke a cigarette without restraint. The bottomless night made the smoke I exhaled seem thick and heavy. I couldn't break through it. I drifted off, my whole being feeling light and unmoored. I saw the hazy outline of that city again, my city in the sky. It was still as crystalline and beautiful as ever. But then, suddenly it began to weep. It lost its shape and tore me apart. In the searing pain of that tearing, I thought I saw those past moments of quiet joy again. After washing up, I lay in bed, not wanting to think about anything, just repeating the 2 small acts of smoking and drifting into a daze until my phone buzzed with a text. It was from CC. Leo, big news, Abner proposed to Micah today. The message confirmed it. Micah had really gone to CC's. But CC was overreacting. This was old news to me. I calmly texted back, I know. Is Micah with you now? CC sent a photo. In it, Micah was sleeping, her face free of makeup, but still breathtakingly beautiful. I sighed. That's a goddess for you. Even after being proposed to, her sleep was unaffected. Meanwhile, someone else was losing sleep over her. I immediately replied, you're in a prime position to get the scoop. Quick, send a few more pics. CC sent back a sweating emoji. Abner just proposed, and you're this calm? Why shouldn't I be? This isn't a nature documentary. One male makes a mating call, and the other one has to go bite him. CC sent back a laughing so hard I'm crying emoji. Leo, can you please not be so hilarious? I didn't know how to reply to that, so I tossed my phone aside and lit another cigarette. I imagined a day when Micah was actually Abner's girlfriend, and the thought was suffocating. But like I just told CC, I was a human being, and being human meant I couldn't act as simply and directly as an animal. Right now, I was held back by so many human considerations, and they made me feel powerless. Even if I did manage to win Micah over, what if, one day, she grew to hate everything about me, just like Ava did? I didn't dare to think any further. I was terrified of seeing that city in the sky lose its crystalline beauty and start to weep again. After I finished my cigarette, CC sent another text. Leo, be honest with me. Do you like Micah or not? The question made my heart pound. It took me a long time to calm down enough to reply. Yes, I do. But it's like when you liked Robin. After you told him, didn't he avoid you for a long time? You almost stopped being friends. Please don't make me repeat your mistakes, okay? I seem to have inadvertently hit a nerve. It was a while before she replied. I understand your fear. I've been there. How about this? I'll find a chance to ask her how she feels about you. No, don't you dare. Don't you know how smart and perceptive she is? The second you hint at anything, she'll know what you're up to. I'd rather let things happen naturally. So please, just stay out of it. Okay, big sis CC. After a moment, CC sent back a single word. Sigh. Our conversation ended there. I sat on my bed in a daze for a while longer before turning off the light and letting myself be swallowed by the suffocating darkness, repeating the anxious ritual of insomnia. My mind started to wander again. I even fantasized about a day when I could be her boyfriend or her husband, lying in the same bed with her, talking about life's frustrations and dreaming about a beautiful future. Then, the night would be as soft as a cloud for me. With her by my side, I could cast off all my anxiety and sleep peacefully. But what an unrealistic fantasy. All I could do was bury it deep in my heart and never touch it, so that the fantasy wouldn't curdle into a torturous desire. Because I'd been up so late, I slept until almost noon the next day. After a simple lunch, I started working on a marketing plan for the fifth season music bar again. But my mind was still blocked. Even after a whole afternoon of racking my brains, I couldn't come up with a single good idea. Watching the sunset through the window, I leaned back in my chair, exhausted. After finishing a cigarette, I pulled out my phone and called Micah. I wanted to arrange the meeting with Ben and Mr. Khloe for the next day. I didn't want to drag it out. The sooner they had an answer, the sooner they could rest easy. Micah picked up after a short ring. I got straight to the point. Are you free tomorrow? Why? If you are, I'd like to set up that meeting with Ben and Mr. Clark. I want to get this sorted out as soon as possible. Let's wait. Wait? Are you busy? Or was there another reason? I have my reasons. As for the meeting time, let's set it for a week from now, okay? A week felt like a long time, but I was the one asking for a favor, so I couldn't push too hard. All right, I said after a moment. Whatever you say. Good. Okay, I'll let you get back to work. I won't bother you. Wait, is there something else? I asked, confused. I'm about to get off work. Is it okay if I come over to your place for dinner? I'm craving your cooking. Her request caught me off guard. Dinner at my place is no problem, but aren't you supposed to be with the Ivy League turtle? He came all the way back from the States to see you. First of all, he didn't come back just to see me, she said seriously. And second, if I go see him, what if he proposes again? I don't want to go through that awkwardness again. In that moment, I really wanted to record her words and play them for CC. See if she still wanted to push me to confess my feelings to Micah. I was truly grateful for my own rational mind. Otherwise, Abner's today would be my tomorrow. It was further proof that all irrational proposals have consequences. After a pause, I joked, so you're using my place as a sanctuary now? That's not the right way to put it. The house is mine, after all. By the way, did you buy the potted plants I asked you to get? Her bringing up that old subject made me feel a little sheepish. I didn't have the money. Was it because you bought that RC car? Yes, but one thing has nothing to do with the other. I'll buy those plants as soon as I have some cash. I'm not going to skip out on a debt just because I gave you a gift. Micah's tone suddenly changed, becoming surprisingly pleased. Leo, for a scoundrel like you who's almost beyond saving, to see you turn over a new leaf, I'm truly gratified. You can forget about the plants. I ignored her backhanded compliment. Are you just feeling guilty for mooching so many free meals off me? My direct hit made her quickly change the subject. After dinner, let's go to the square and play with the RC car. You gave it to me, and I haven't even had a chance to properly play with it yet. I didn't have the energy to argue. The idea sounded nice. Actually, a way to unwind after a long, tiring day. I agreed. But after we hung up, I suddenly realized that Micah and I had switched roles. It was as if she was becoming more and more of a scoundrel, and I was learning to enjoy her brand of scoundrelism. I just wasn't sure if, back then, she had enjoyed mine or seen it as torture. I suspected it was the latter. As evening fell, I was busy in the kitchen while Micah, who had already returned, was in her room reviewing documents. It felt a bit awkward. I was a man, she was a woman. Our current activities should have been reversed. I thought, this is another reason I'm not willing to confess my feelings to her. Not many men are willing to accept a relationship where the woman is so much more powerful. Finally, dinner was ready. I took off my apron and brought all the dishes to the table. Just as I was about to call Micah to eat, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Ava. The message was simple. I'm by the Willamette, feeling down. If you have time, can you come keep me company? I was torn. This was a time when families were gathering for dinner under warm lights. But the image of Ava sitting alone by the river, enduring the cold wind, gnawed at me. What was wrong with her lately? I had always assumed she was happy with Nathan. Why was she so frequently seeking solace by the flowing water of the river? Lost in my confusion, Micah came out of her room. She looked at the colorful, fragrant spread on the table and remarked, "Tonight's dinner is quite a feast. I'm in a good mood. I could even have a little bit of that moonshine with you." I was silent. After a moment, I said to her, "You eat by yourself? I have to go out." Disappointment immediately clouded her face. "Can't it wait until after dinner?" I shook my head and went to my room to change into warmer clothes. When I came out again, Micah wasn't at the table. She had gone back to her room. I hesitated, but in the end, I didn't ask her why she wasn't eating. I opened the door, went downstairs, and drove into the night toward the river that held so many of my own emotions. My worry grew, and with it, the fear that the Ava of today was not happy. After all, we once loved each other deeply. That's what she had told me not long ago. And now, that same emotion was consuming me. The car's headlights tore a gash in the darkness, and my heart raced through it, catching up to the moonlit, freezing wind. I felt a chill. I finally reached the bank of the Willamette River and saw Ava's red Cadillac. It was as stunning as ever, but submerged in the boundless night, it looked solitary. I walked down the steep embankment and saw her sitting on the concrete steps, dressed in a red down jacket. Her back was to me, so I couldn't see her face, but I knew she must be dejected. Otherwise, there was no reason to be out here, enduring the biting wind. I approached and sat down beside her, following her somber gaze to the dark surface of the river. Neither of us spoke. In the silence, I reached into my pocket for a cigarette, but couldn't find my lighter. Just as I was about to give up, Ava pulled a lighter from her purse. With a click, a flame sprang to life, ready to grant my wish. I put the cigarette to my lips and leaned into the flame. Smoke, like a long-lost friend, curled up from between my fingers. I took a deep drag and then looked at the lighter in her hand. It was a blue Zippo. It had lit my cigarettes countless times, but I had never owned it. Ava had always kept it for me, ever since we started dating. I'll never forget her telling me she loved lighting my cigarettes and watching the look of satisfaction on my face. Sigh. For a moment, I almost lost control, almost fell back into the beauty of the past. But I held on, remaining silent. I couldn't say anything. A chasm called time has passed now lay between us. I finally stubbed out the half-smoked cigarette. To melt the frozen atmosphere, I forced a smile. We're not going to just sit here from beginning to end without saying a word, are we? You're going to say something to me, right? I don't want to say anything. I just want you to sit with me for a while. I pulled out my phone and looked at her text again. Sure enough, she had only asked me to keep her company, not to talk. I nodded. Fine, no talking. We could just be two strangers who happened to meet. I took the opportunity to freeze my agitated heart once more. But the night, bewitched by the wind, seemed to have a magical power. It pulled me back through the years to my youth. I wandered through those memories, ambushed on all sides by a past happiness. Happiness and ambush are opposite words, so why did they coexist so vividly in my mind? It took me a long time to understand, because it was a past happiness. And when any beautiful thing is tied to the past, it becomes a drug that gives you a fleeting high before poisoning your present. I couldn't bear it any longer. I turned to Ava. Are you and Nathan fighting? We're always fighting. It's normal for couples to have some conflict. Ava finally looked up at me. I want to ask you a question. If your girlfriend wanted to work, would you do everything in your power to stop her? I thought about it. I wouldn't, but you have to understand, I can't afford a girlfriend who doesn't work. That's a practical reality. Nathan is different. What if you could afford it? I don't know. I haven't reached that level. If I try to imagine it from my current position, any answer I give you would probably be inaccurate. Ava seemed lost in thought. After a long pause, she said, You wouldn't try to control her, because you're a man who loves freedom and isn't selfish. You would definitely let your partner be free. Her assessment of me was startling. Did she really know me better than I knew myself? Not just the me of the past, but the me I might become if I ever achieve something. After another long silence, she spoke again, as if to herself, as much as to me. I'm going to start my ad agency, and I'm going to make it the top agency in the country. That's my dream. No one can stop me. Sometimes, compromising for love is its own reward, I advised. Being too stubborn only ends up hurting you. She stared at me, her expression complex. Do you know? If I can't achieve this dream, I'll feel like my life has no value. Besides this dream, I really don't know what I have left. I was silent for a long time, but I could feel her struggle and her pain. I just didn't understand why she was so pessimistic. She had so much. As long as she wasn't with me, her parents would surely forgive her past and give her the warmth of the family. And if not that, she still had Nathan's love. In the recurring silence, she changed the subject. Do you want another cigarette? Yeah, I said, pulling one from the pack. At the same time, Ava took out the blue lighter again. Amid the dancing flame, smoke once again filled the air. But before I could even enjoy the satisfaction of a single cigarette, Ava had picked up her handbag. Before leaving, she said, Leo, thank you for coming to keep me company. I feel better now. In a few days, I'm going to start preparing to launch the agency. Even if no one supports me, I'll keep fighting for this one dream. You'll definitely succeed, I said, and it wasn't just a polite platitude. Her father was a giant in the advertising world, with a top-tier agency in New York. Ava was his only daughter. He would surely support her. But Ava was too headstrong. It would be much easier for her to take over her father's company than to build her own from scratch. But to each their own. As her ex-boyfriend, all I could do was silently wish her well, hoping she could achieve her dream and even surpass her father in the industry. After Ava left, I sat by the river alone for a little while longer. Ava and I were becoming more and more like friends. Even when we met, we didn't talk about the past. So I was starting to believe that it was possible to be friends after a breakup. In truth, I didn't reject the idea, but I didn't welcome it either. I was just letting things happen naturally. I didn't want to add any more unnecessary pain to my life. At least for now, I couldn't completely cut ties with her, not while I still owed her that $50,000. When I got home and opened the door, I instinctively glanced at the shoe rack. Micah's shoes were gone. I looked at the dining table. The food was untouched. I realized she must have left in a huff. But it didn't seem like a big deal. She could have eaten by herself, no problem. And she had no reason to throw a tantrum at me. I wasn't her boyfriend, after all. Confused, I took out my phone and dialed her number. I wanted to ask her why she had left without eating. The call connected, rang twice, and then was disconnected. I didn't give up. I dialed again. This time, it was disconnected almost instantly. I was baffled but sent her a text asking why she wasn't answering. The message vanished into a black hole with no reply. Frustrated, I suddenly remembered my promise to take her to the square to play with the RC car after dinner. By leaving, I had broken my word. That's why she was upset. I sighed, my own appetite gone. I was about to go to my room to rest when I passed Micah's room and noticed the door was ajar. I glanced inside and was surprised to see that the RC car was gone from her desk. She didn't go to play with it by herself, did she? I muttered. It was a real possibility. I forgot about resting, grabbed my car keys, and hurried downstairs. I drove to the square where we usually played with the car. After parking, I jogged down the path into the plaza. It was winter and almost 9 o'clock, so the square was nearly empty. It was easy to spot Micah sitting on a bench, a remote control in her hand, looking bored and a little lonely. I tiptoed up behind her. "Why'd you stop playing?" I said suddenly. I thought I would startle her, but she replied calmly, without turning, "None of your business." I walked around to face her, smiling. "Are we angry? Who would want to be angry with you?" "Aha, confession. I never said you were angry with me." Micah shot me a look, ignored me, and stood up, picking up the RC car and heading for the exit. I followed her relentlessly and grabbed her arm. "You know, I'm starting to notice this princess complex of yours is getting worse. I was just gone for a little while." She struggled, frowning. "Let go of me. Don't push it. I never realized you had such a temper." "You hit it well," I remarked, not letting go. "Didn't you say women have a few days like this every month? So what if I have a temper? You're the one who gave me that right." A look of dawning realization crossed my face. "Oh, you're on your period. But I didn't give you that right. Your period did. Last time was you forcing it on me. Okay." "Oh." Micah yanked her arm free and started walking toward the exit again. I fell in a step beside her, not grabbing her this time. "Stop being angry, okay? It was a special situation today. When isn't it a special situation when you break a promise to me?" I was speechless. She had a point. My confidence waned. "Then just give me a chance to make it up to you." She suddenly stopped and looked at me for a long time. "Fine, I'll give you a chance. Promise me one thing." I was wary. "It's not something illegal or immoral, is it?" "Of course not. It's something you can do very easily." "All right then, name it. I'll get done in a flash." Micah glanced at the 7-Eleven across the street. "I'm almost out of that stuff. Go buy some for me." I froze, understanding instantly. "What the hell? Are you trying to humiliate me? You want me, a proud man, to go buy that? Is it humiliating? It's something you can get done in a minute inside a convenience store." "You women are all crazy," I muttered, remembering the time Khloe had forced me to wash her underwear. It seemed they all enjoyed using these tasks to crush a man's dignity. "If you don't want to, that's fine. I won't force you. It's not like breaking promises isn't already ingrained in your bones. What woman would ever entrust her life to a man like you? You deserve to be a bachelor for the rest of your life. Don't be so harsh. I'm only 26. You're already writing me off as a lifelong bachelor. You'll still be a bachelor at 46. By your logic, if I go buy that stuff for you, a wife is just going to fall out of the sky for me." Micah looked at me. "Go try it and see. Maybe you'll really pick up a wife for free." "Nice try. Don't think you can dig a pit for me to fall into. I've seen your pathetic little tricks before. Who knows what kind of torture you're plotting?" She stared at me for a long time, then asked again, "You're really not going?" "No." Micah nodded, her voice suddenly dropping. "I guess I thought too highly of myself. I shouldn't force people to do things." Her sudden change in tone threw me off. Not wanting to dwell on it, I changed the subject. "You haven't eaten yet, have you? I'll go home and heat up the food." Before I could finish, Micah cut me off. "No need." She held the RC car out to me. "You take this back." My heart sank. I instinctively didn't want to take the car from her. She placed the car and its remote on the ground, gave me one last look, and her expression was just as it had been when we first met, full of coldness and distance, instantly separating two people who had seemed so close, placing one in the heavens and the other on the earth. Stunned, I just stood there, watching her walk away under the streetlights until she got in her car and disappeared completely from sight. I still couldn't understand how a box of tampons could hold so much power. If I had just bought them, what would our situation be right now? I didn't know. All I could think was, a woman's heart is an ocean of secrets. I took the car Micah had left behind and went back to the apartment, a strange taste in my mouth. The cold, untouched meal on the table felt like a mockery. I lit a cigarette, smoking in frustration. I just couldn't believe a woman like Micah would throw a fit over something so trivial. But she had. Sigh. Maybe the power didn't belong to the tampons, but to her period. Even though it only lasted a few days, in that limited time, it could transform a woman's personality, making her unreasonable and impossible to understand. So, it was probably best to wait until she was free from its clutches before I tried to talk to her again. Lying in bed, I was still worried about her, afraid she'd skip dinner out of anger. I texted CC. Hey, can you text Micah later, as if it's your idea, and ask if she's eaten dinner? Why does it have to be my idea? We had a little disagreement. She's not really talking to me right now. No way. I asked her to go shopping with me this evening, and she said she was going to your place for dinner and that you were taking her to the square to play with the RC car. She was as happy as a little kid. I stared at the message for a long time, until another one from CC buzzed through, jolting me back to reality. What did you do to her? I didn't know how to answer. I couldn't tell her we'd fought over a box of tampons. That would make us sound like two actual children. After a long pause, I finally replied. Nothing much, just a few crosswords. Don't worry about it, just ask her if she's eaten. Or better yet, maybe you should just go stay at her place tonight. Make her some noodles or something. She's not feeling well. Fine, I'll head over now. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. You two are giving me an ulcer. You're like a couple of silly kids. After my WhatsApp conversation with CC ended, I fell into a state of waiting, a thick mix of concern and anxiety. I lit a cigarette, trying to level out, and as the nicotine finally calmed my nerves, I started replaying the night's events with Micah in my head. I filtered through the layers of memory until one thing crystallized, her parting words. I guess I just thought I was more important than I am, she'd said. I shouldn't have pushed you. I turned the sentence over and over, grinding it down word by word, trying to decipher the emotion behind it. When it came to women, I was hardly a man of nuance. The only real relationship I'd ever had was with Ava, and in that all-consuming love affair, the beginning and the middle had felt so natural, falling in love, navigating the highs and lows. But the end had been a sudden, jarring crash. The whiplash had turned me into a hedgehog, all spines and defense. I hadn't dated since. I preferred the straight-to-the-point release of a hookup, which is how Khloe and I had ended up in bed together. Mulling it over, I felt like I was finally starting to understand what Micah meant. She wanted to have an important place in my heart, which, flipping it around, meant she cared about me. So why hadn't I seen it then? Maybe because we'd spent so much of our time together sparring that my brain had fallen into a rut. I'd reflexively assumed her asking me to buy tampons was a test, a deliberate attempt to embarrass me. But the truth was, it was about intimacy. For a woman as guarded as she was, asking a man to buy something so personal could only be a sign of closeness. I understood now. No matter what we were to each other, the road ahead would require us to smooth out our rough edges, to avoid misunderstandings like the one tonight. I don't know how long I lay there before my phone buzzed with a WhatsApp notification. I snatched it up. It was from CC, just as I'd hoped. The message was a picture of a cup of instant ramen, with a caption underneath, "She's eating." I stared at the photo and the text for a long time, unsure of what to say back. I just felt like such an ass. The script for this evening was supposed to be a nice dinner, followed by us racing RC cars at the square. Instead, I was still on an empty stomach, and Micah was back home eating instant ramen. How pathetic was that? Finally, I texted CC back. Don't let her eat that crap. See if there's anything else in the kitchen you can make for her, something with actual nutrients. A moment later, CC replied, "Too late. We split it. All gone. You're a true best friend. For richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health." CC sent back a grinning emoji. Damn right. We can share a designer handbag, and we can share a cup of instant ramen full of preservatives. Knowing Micah had CC with her, I felt a little better. I tossed my phone aside, pulled the covers over my head, and let the exhaustion wash over me. I was too tired to figure out why I was so tired, and I was sick of a life that required constant second-guessing. It felt like I was falling back into that same old black hole, a place devoid of passion, just a kind of listless decay. Half asleep, my phone rang again. I instinctively thought it was CC, but a glance at the screen showed a message from Khloe. "Leo, how's the bar doing? It's under renovation. Should be ready to open again soon. You've worked hard. By the way, I have some good news. I signed a new project. I'll pay back the money for the bar as soon as I can, so don't stress about it." I stared at the message, a little dazed, before replying. I can't help but feel like things went a little too smoothly for you in New York. It took a while for her to respond this time. Everyone gets their shot when they've paid their dues. I got mine and I took it. You should be happy for me, not worried. In that short sentence, I sensed a shift in Khloe. Her words had a perfunctory, almost forceful edge to them. It wasn't like the woman I knew, the one who'd been so desperately starved for a sense of security. Maybe disaster really did force a person to grow. The Khloe of today had left her past behind, but I honestly didn't know if I should be happy for her. After a moment, I typed back, "It's late. Get some rest. Talk soon. Good night." A single clip goodnight. I couldn't feel a trace of her old clinginess, none of that needy dependence. I let out a heavy breath and tossed the phone aside again. I tried to pull the covers up and go back to sleep, but instead, I found myself lighting another cigarette, waiting in the darkness for a dawn that felt impossibly far away. Time pushed forward. Another weekend arrived. In the 4 days that had passed, I hadn't contacted Micah, and she hadn't contacted me. I only heard bits and pieces about her from CC. Apparently, she'd spent the whole week in Seattle, since the new Aria Grand Mall there was about to launch. Of course, during that time, she'd surely have had plenty of free time to spend with Abner. Whether their relationship was the same or had progressed, I didn't know. CC didn't tell me. Meanwhile, the bar renovations were nearly finished. The grand reopening was officially set for next weekend. The only problem was I still hadn't come up with a decent marketing plan. The pressure was mounting, and my nerves were fraying. As the sun began to set, I drove to the square alone, hoping to unwind. It was the weekend, so the place was more crowded than usual, and every single bench was taken. Without a second thought, I plopped down cross-legged on the pavement and started playing with my RC car. About half an hour passed before I saw two familiar figures approaching, each holding a car of their own. It was Micah and Wes. Wes still had his Prize Tamiya Anniversary Edition car, but Micah was holding a brand-new, gas-power model. Wes grinned at me from a distance, but Micah completely ignored my existence. She stopped a few feet away and set her car on the ground. She tried to start it several times, but it wouldn't catch. Seeing my chance, I walked over. "Need a hand? You're not starting it right." "Thanks, but I'm fine," she said, pulling the starter cord again. Still nothing. I knelt beside her, my tone casual. "What brings you back to Portland today? Am I not allowed to come back for the weekend?" Wes chimed in. "Big bro, the judge is back to help my grandpa." She said I don't have to sell stuff at the square anymore. Even though Wes's explanation was a little jumbled, I understood. Micah had sorted out a spot for his grandfather to sell his crafts at Aria Grand. I smiled at the boy. "Hey, Squirt, your judge and I have some grown-up stuff to talk about. Why don't you go play over there for a bit? I'll buy you KFC later." "Awesome. More food." Wes bounced on his heels and obediently ran off to join a group of kids with his car. I shamelessly turned back to Micah, who was still ignoring me. "Nice new car. Must have cost a pretty penny. Why would I buy it? You think you're the only person who gives me gifts." Her words hit me with a pang of disappointment. I had to jump through hoops just to get her a secondhand car, while someone else could get her a better one in a heartbeat. That was the difference between us. I hid my feelings, taking the car from her hands. As I tinkered with it, I said, "This is brand new. It needs to be broken in. The main and secondary needles need to be set a little rich. Otherwise, you'll have a ton of problems once it starts. And before you start it, don't plug in the glow plug. Cover the air intake with your finger and pull the starter a few times to get fuel into the crankcase, you know?" Micah finally seemed to thaw. She watched me and nodded. "You never had a gas-powered car. How do you know so much?" Her question brought Nathan to mind. The only reason I knew anything was because he'd had one in college that we'd messed with for ages. I certainly never had the cash to buy my own. "A friend had one," I said lightly. She didn't press further. I was getting tired of squatting, so I sat down on the pavement. To my surprise, Micah sat down right next to me, watching with genuine interest as I worked on her car. I immediately pulled her back up. "What are you doing? Aren't you cold? You just had your period. Your immune system is shot. You want to get sick. You're sitting on the ground. I'm a tough guy. I can handle it. Can you?" "But my legs are tired from squatting." I looked around, but there was nothing for her to sit on. So I took off my down jacket, spread it on the ground, and said, "Here, sito on this. You won't get cold." I went back to tinkering with the car on the ground. But Micah didn't sit down. She was just standing there, looking at me with a complicated expression. In the fading light of dusk, our eyes met. I finally put down the RC car, smiled, and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Micah didn't answer. Instead, she picked up my jacket from the ground, opened my arms, and helped me put it back on. "And you won't get cold?" she asked, a hint of admonishment in her voice. "Have you ever seen me catch a cold? This body is ironclad, forged into freezing winds." Micah smiled. "Stop being dramatic and fix the car. I'll be fine squatting for a little while." Seeing her smile, I felt a momentary daze. I couldn't remember the last time she'd really smiled at me. To keep that smile going, I quickly knelt back down and got to work. A few moments later, the engine roared to life. I handed the remote to Micah. Here, go play. To my surprise, she shook her head. I bought it for you. Huh? But you said your friend gave it to you. I said that because I was angry. It's your fault for always making me upset. I felt a surge of warmth in my chest, but I kept my tone light. I know you're still mad about the other day, but it's not like there isn't a chance to make up for it. You'll have your period again next month, right? I'll go buy you a whole case. Are you an idiot? Who wants you to buy a whole case? I gave a sheepish laugh, suddenly feeling a little awkward. Our banter was starting to sound suspiciously like a couple's. When I didn't say anything, Micah's expression turned serious. I actually bought this car last time. I was going to give it to you after dinner, but I ditched you and left, and you lost your appetite. Right? It's good that you know. She paused for a moment, then asked, can you tell me who you want to see that night? You look so anxious. I hesitated, but decided to be honest. It was Ava. She was the one who called me. Micah nodded. Her gaze drifted away from me, past the fountain to a noisy group of kids, a distant look in her eyes. By the time we left KFC, it was completely dark. The three of us stood in the cold winter wind, the moment of parting upon us. I'll take Wes home, I told Micah. You've been tired lately. You should go home and get some rest. No, I'll take him. Tomorrow's the weekend. It won't affect my sleep. Wes, clutching a bucket of chicken, suddenly piped up. Big bro, Judge, you don't have to take me. I can get home by myself. It's not far. He thought for a moment and added, aren't grown-ups who are dating supposed to go to the movies on a Friday night? Micah and I exchanged a look. Finally, I said, you're just a kid. Why are you so nosy? Who told you we were dating? No way. Dating is so great. Defeated by his simple logic, I glanced at Micah before telling him, we're over the whole hassle of happiness. Wes scratched his head and turned to Micah for help. Judge, what does that mean? Micah smiled. Don't listen to him. He just likes to act all deep and mysterious. I didn't argue with her dismissal and sarcasm, but that didn't mean I agreed that I was just acting. The idea of being tired of happiness was real. It just took time to understand what it meant. I suspected Micah wasn't in the mood to dig into it right now. In the end, Micah and I walked Wes home together. We chatted with his grandfather for a bit before leaving. Walking down the narrow path in a rundown block of low-income housing, the wind funneled through the alley, lashing at us. Worried Micah couldn't take the biting cold, I took off my down jacket again and draped it over her shoulders. She still refused, so I forcefully wrapped it around her. Did you forget how you got sick last time? I said, my voice stern. If you're not strong, don't pretend to be. Faced with my insistence, Micah seemed to want to say something, but held back. She finally stopped struggling. Just make sure you don't get cold. For a man, this kind of cold is a form of happiness. Masochist. I laughed. Wait until we're out of this alley to call me names. The wind is brutal in here. Even this masochist is about to give in. Micah nodded. Then, she suddenly took my hand, which was red with cold, and tucked it into the pocket of the jacket she was now wearing. My left hand was instantly enveloped in warmth. I stood frozen for a long moment before following her lead toward the mouth of the alley. Our shadows pressed close together, as if drawing warmth from each other to fight off the bitter cold. Back home, after my usual routine of washing up, I lay in bed smoking, my mind replaying every little moment since I'd met Micah. I was struck by the sudden realization that we had already lived through the change of 2 seasons. I still clearly remembered that late autumn rainy day when I'd callously thrown her bedding out of the apartment. I also remembered how she'd tricked me into driving to the middle of nowhere, leaving me stranded and miserable. And then there was the time she'd traveled all the way to Indianapolis to find me, how I'd played the guitar for her while she leaned against me and cried. So much had happened as the seasons turned. I just wish I had Abner's emotional intelligence. If I had recorded all of this with a camera, maybe these nights of reflection wouldn't feel so empty. I stubbed out my cigarette and looked at the stolen Polaroids on the cabinet across the room. Even in the dim light, I couldn't see them clearly, but I could still feel the presence of her heart, a heart that needed comforting. But why couldn't I be a brave man? Maybe I really was insecure. I was afraid I couldn't soothe her deeply wounded heart. It seemed like all I could do for her now was cook a meal, drape a coat over her shoulders to ward off the cold, and occasionally do something stupid to make her angry. Could these insignificant offerings truly support a love affair with such a vast gap between us? It was an impossible question, but if I didn't try, how would I ever know the answer? And if I tried and failed, wouldn't that just inflict more pain on both of us? And that was the optimistic scenario. The pessimistic one was that I wouldn't even get a chance to try, because by Micah's side was Abner, who doted on her every move. If you were to compare me to Abner, I had no doubt I was a total lightweight, a 5 out of 100 nobody. So yeah, I really should just go to sleep. Better than torturing myself with these pointless, unreliable thoughts. I finally switched off the light, repeating the ritual of feeling the loneliness bloom in the darkened room. But just as the solitude was starting to feel comfortable, my phone rang, shattering the quiet. I waited a long time before picking it up. It was a message from Micah. Leo, I forgot to tell you earlier. Can you set up a meeting with Ben, Mr. Clark, and me tomorrow afternoon? We should talk. The message instantly erased my loneliness. This was about Ben and Mr. Clark's careers. My heart filled with anticipation, hoping that Micah would have good news for them tomorrow. I immediately messaged Micah back. What time tomorrow afternoon? Is 2 p.m. okay? No problem. We'll work around your schedule. This time, it took her a while to reply. That business last time? The leak came from Mr. Clark, right? I sensed she was still bothered by it and quickly explained. Yes, but Mr. Clark was a pawn in the whole thing. Don't worry, I'm not that narrow-minded. Besides, he lost his shot at a top position at Polaris because of your leak. You owe him, and I'll help you make it right. Her message stirred something unfamiliar in me. Before I could respond, a second one came through. Of course, what I value more is their experience and ability. I'm confident they will create value for Aria Grande. I felt a little calmer. They definitely will. I have faith in my old boss and my best friend. Good. I trust your judgment too. Micah's reply finally put me at ease. It seemed like Ben and Mr. Clark getting jobs at Aria Grande was a done deal. My only worry was her uncle, Declan. While Micah was the CEO and had hiring power, any changes to mid to senior level staff would ultimately need his signature as acting chairman. I fumbled in the dark for the pack of cigarettes on my nightstand, lit one, and took a long drag before exhaling slowly. Only then did I reply to Micah. Why are you still up so late? Looking at spreadsheets. Got any good songs to recommend? Something to listen to before bed. I racked my brain, but couldn't think of a single song suitable for winding down. The stuff I like is all folk and rock. You probably wouldn't like it. Then I'll just listen to Rearview Mirror. That one's pretty good. It's the middle of the night. Do you have to tease me like that? To my surprise, she doubled down, sending a voice note. In it, she sang the opening lines to the Pearl Jam song. Seems I'm not moving, just sitting in motion, a cage skin tearing. I've got a rearview mirror. I've got a blank as a page, a clean slate. I met her challenge with one of my own, sending back a voice note with the next line. And just like that, one line at a time, we sang the entire song to each other on WhatsApp. After that, I was sleepy, and I figured she was too. The heavy night had suddenly become soft and gentle. The next morning, I went over to Ben and Jenna's new place. The truth was, since their wedding, I hadn't really been over to visit. It was a stark contrast to the old days when I'd show up to bum a meal every few days. I couldn't quite put my finger on what had changed. Maybe it was because I wasn't at Polaris anymore, and I'd spent so much time back in Indianapolis that a little distance had grown between us. Their new place was a standard 3-bedroom, decorated in a modern Korean style that made the whole apartment look exquisite. A large wedding photo of them in the living room filled the space with a warmth that felt like home, the kind of life I'd dreamed of for a long time, but which always felt so far away. Actually, it wasn't that far. At least, back in Indianapolis, I had been infinitely close. But now, that felt like a somewhat unreal dream, a dream where reality and fantasy clashed so fiercely that joy and pain existed side by side. I forced the thoughts away, unwilling to get lost in them. All they did was prove how messed up my life was now, how dissatisfied I was. At noon, the three of us, me, Ben, and Jenna, sat around the table eating lunch and making small talk. Eventually, the conversation drifted to Ava. Jenna asked me, Leo, did you know Ava is starting an ad agency? She mentioned it to me. What about it? Jenna's tone was one of complete disbelief. I mean, I get that she doesn't want to be a housewife, but if she wants to work, she could just go to her dad's company, right? Or help Nathan with his business. Starting her own agency. Isn't that just asking for trouble? Did Nathan agree to it? I asked, cutting to the chase. Jenna scoffed and shook her head. Of course Nathan didn't agree. But you know Ava's personality. He can't really control her. He got so mad he took off for France. I looked at Jenna, surprised. What do you mean, he went to France? Ben smiled and cut in. Don't listen to Jenna's embellishments. Nathan went to France to negotiate a wine importing deal. Jenna, refusing to be corrected, shot back. Doesn't their company have people who handle international business? He didn't need to go himself. I think he was just angry with Ava. After a long pause, I finally asked, so where's Ava now? She went back to Seattle a few days ago. Said she was raising funds to start the agency. I have no idea where she's getting the money. Knowing her, she probably won't ask her dad for it. Jenna's words left me in a thoughtful silence. I had put Ava in a difficult position. If she hadn't given me the $60,000 she'd saved up over the years, it would have been more than enough to start a small ad agency. I had to find a way to pay her back as soon as possible. After lunch, Jenna was in the kitchen washing dishes. Ben and I sat on the living room sofa, smoking. I took my customary deep drag, flicked the ash, and asked him, "Have you been in touch with Mr. Clark?" Ben nodded. "I have. He's on board. We can meet with Micah at the agreed time." "Yeah, from the way Micah sounded, I think there's a good chance this will work out. If you and Mr. Clark really do end up at Aria Grande, I hope you'll help her out a lot. You know how deep the water is there. At the end of the day, she's still just one woman. Don't worry. For me and Mr. Clark, this is a second chance. Saying we'd die for her is a bit much, but we'll definitely do everything we can to support her." Ben paused for a moment and added, "Leo, to be honest, I really wish you could come to Aria Grande too. The Love Isn't a Luxury campaign already showed your creative talent. Compared to me and Mr. Clark, you could probably help her even more." His heartfelt words actually made me waver. After all, once he and Mr. Clark were at Aria Grande, I wouldn't have the same guilt about what happened to Mr. Clark. After a moment, I smiled. "The bar is in the middle of preparing for its opening right now. Let's talk about this later." Ben nodded. "Okay, but I'd advise you to think about it seriously. Running a bar isn't exactly a stable career. Business can change overnight. Don't worry. Once the bar's business is stable, I'll give it some serious thought." We fell into a brief silence before Ben asked jokingly, "So what's the situation with that model? She really caused you a lot of trouble." "She went to New York. She's doing well. Got a new role recently." "That's great. You could tell from the start, when Gucci insisted on having her for that ad campaign, that she was born for this business. Maybe she'll really be able to help you out one day, Leo. If she makes it big in that world, her influence will be off the charts." I just smiled and didn't say anything. I didn't like to look too far into the future. Whatever Khloe's future held, I didn't feel like it had much to do with me. The time finally reached 1:30. It was time for Ben and me to head out. Mr. Clark was already on his way to the upscale hotel lounge we had agreed to meet at. Whether this would all work out smoothly depended on the meeting ahead. At 1:50, Ben and I were the first to arrive at the hotel lounge. Mr. Clark's car pulled up at almost the same time. A moment later, he got out, taking off his sunglasses. Ben and I walked over to greet him. I was sure Mr. Clark now knew the truth about what had happened. I approached him apologetically. "Mr. Clark, about the Aria Grande thing." Before I could finish, Mr. Clark smiled and cut me off. "You don't need to explain. Ben has already told me everything. Misfortune can be a blessing in disguise, and blessings can hide misfortune. At my age, I've figured a lot of things out." Even though he didn't seem to hold against me, I still said, "I'm sorry." Mr. Clark clapped me on the shoulder without another word. The three of us stood there, looking in the direction from which Micah would appear. At 2 o'clock sharp, Micah's red Audi Q7 pulled up. Ben and Mr. Clark's expressions instinctively became more formal. In their industry, Micah was someone they had to look up to. Finally, she opened the car door. Dressed in a sharp business suit and carrying a white Chanel handbag, she stepped out. With their years of professional experience, Mr. Clark and Ben immediately walked toward her, their faces breaking into deferential smiles. I, on the other hand, was so used to bickering with Micah that I had never consciously put the CEO halo on her. I was a half step behind them as I walked over. "Ms. Me, it's an honor to have this opportunity to meet you." Micah offered a professional smile and extended her hand to Mr. Clark. "You're a veteran of the department store industry. The honor is all mine." Mr. Clark, perhaps not expecting Micah to be so humble and approachable, seemed taken aback for a moment before shaking her hand. Ben then shook her hand as well, completing the formal greetings. As the middleman, I said to the three of them, "It's pretty windy out here. Let's go inside and discuss things over some tea." Mr. Clark and Ben nodded, but to my surprise, Micah turned to me. "Are you coming in too?" "Huh, I'm not supposed to." "This is an internal Aria Grande matter. It's not appropriate for you to be involved." Seeing her serious expression, I realized she was right. The negotiation would likely involve trade secrets from both companies. I smiled and said to the three of them, "You guys go ahead and talk. I'll go sit in the coffee shop across the street." I ordered a coffee and sat in the cafe, my mind focused on the outcome of their meeting, but forced to wait patiently. The waiting was tedious. My thoughts eventually turned to Ava. I wanted to ask her how she was doing. If she was really struggling for funds for her ad agency, I had to find a way to pay back the $60,000 she'd lent me. I found Ava's number and dialed. After a long time, she finally answered. I can't imagine you'd ever call me on your own. I was silent for a moment before asking. You're in Seattle right now, right? Yes. Is something wrong? I heard from Jenna that you're raising funds to start your ad agency. If you're in a tight spot, I could try to figure out a way to pay back that $60,000 soon. How are you going to pay it back? By asking that Micah woman for it. Ava's sharp tone caught me off guard. After a moment, I replied, I'll find a way. I don't necessarily have to borrow from her. You don't need to worry about my affairs. The capital for an ad agency isn't a big deal for me. Is that so? Then at least you should tell me how you're going to get the money, I pressed, afraid she might go down the same road as Khloe. But Ava seemed unwilling to discuss it. After a silence, she said impatiently, I have friends from my time studying in the U.S. who are in investment. I can get funding from them. Is that answer satisfactory? I didn't doubt the truth in her words. The world Ava lived in meant she had easier access to startup capital than most people. Never mind investors. With her father's standing in the industry, even if someone lent her a few million, they wouldn't worry about her ability to repay it. But her usual assertiveness made me feel suffocated, so I fell silent. Her tone softened. Leo, that's $60,000. I didn't lend it to you to solve your emergency. I just hope you could live a little more freely, a little more easily, and be your true self, so you don't have to rush to pay it back. And I definitely have the ability to solve this funding issue on my own. Ava's words left me feeling dejected, making me realize just how little foundation I had to stand on. I was just a man trying to build a business on the brink of failure, bailed out by my ex-girlfriend. But what could I do? Society was a harsh reality. Only a tiny few got rich overnight. All I could do was compromise, taking one small step at a time on an endless road forward. I finally said to Ava, I should still say thank you. But the money you lent me didn't make my life easier, and it didn't give me freedom. On the contrary, it's a burden. I'm a man, after all. I long for success and to rise up, but it definitely won't be on the back of a charity. I will work hard to repay this debt. This time, it was Ava's turn to be silent. After a long pause, her voice was low as she asked, Leo, I really want to know, who is it that's giving you this drive and ambition now? The question felt like an interrogation. The truth was, I'd had this drive and ambition long ago. Back then, it was for her. Now that I'd found it again, it was for the sake of survival, not for any particular person. Letting out the stale air trapped in my chest, I smiled and said to Ava, it's life that's giving me this drive and ambition. After ending the call with Ava, I unexpectedly noticed that a beam of afternoon sun had appeared on the glass table in front of me, making the surface look crystal clear. In a fleeting trance, I saw the reflection of the city in the sky. Its appearance made the real world around me suddenly blur, and for a brief moment, I enjoyed a sense of ease and freedom. Accompanied by the aroma of the coffee, I thought, this really wasn't a bad afternoon. If Ben and Mr. Clark's job transfer could also be settled on an afternoon like this, it would be the cherry on top. I took another sip of coffee and looked across at the hotel lounge. I don't know how long I stared, but I finally saw Micah, Mr. Clark, and Ben come out one after another. My heart pounded with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. I immediately ran downstairs from the coffee shop, crossed the busy street, and came up to them. The first thing I asked Ben was, how did it go? His voice was laced with excitement. We're very grateful to Ms. Me for this opportunity. I looked at Micah, but she seemed very calm, showing no particular emotion. After nodding to Ben and Mr. Clark, she started walking toward her car. Ben lowered his voice and told me, Ms. Me has promised that Mr. Clark will be the executive vice president of the Aria Grande in Portland. I was genuinely happy for Mr. Clark. That was the position he had dreamed of at Polaris Retail. And you? I asked Ben. I'll be the manager of the planning department. I was happy for Ben again, but I couldn't help but wonder how Micah had managed to give away two such important positions so easily. Hadn't she met any resistance at all? And why had she asked me to wait a week before setting up this meeting? With these questions in mind, I hastily said goodbye to Mr. Clark and Ben and called out to Micah, who had already opened her car door. Wait up, I'll catch a ride with you. I ran toward her, my desire to get answers growing stronger with every step. Afraid she wouldn't take me, I sprinted to her car, yanked open the passenger door, jumped in, and quickly buckled my seatbelt. Only then did I feel secure. Micah gave me a helpless look. Why are you always so neurotic? It's because you're always ignoring me. If I don't shamelessly latch on, we'd be left staring at each other across an impassable chasm. Who wants to stare at you across a chasm? You have no sense of poetry. Just imagine the scene. So helpless, so tragic, and so sad, she added. Seeing that I'd successfully drawn her into the conversation, I raised my eyebrows. Exactly. That's why you wouldn't want to look at me from across a chasm. Because you wouldn't be able to see all of me, and you'd be very sad. Micah glanced at me out of the corner of her eye, but didn't respond. She started the car and merged into the traffic flowing down the street on this winter afternoon. The sun streamed through the car windows, chasing away some of the winter chill and making it feel comfortable. Once she was on a less congested road, I finally asked, I heard Mr. Clark is going to be the executive vice president of Aria Grand Portland. Micah nodded, confirming the news. It's hard to imagine the factions within Aria Grand would just let you make that decision. Executive VP isn't some minor role. Faced with my confusion, Micah calmly explained, it was mainly a matter of timing. You should know that the Aria Grand in Seattle is about to open, and the headquarters is moving there. That leaves a lot of opportunities here in Portland. She trailed off, but I was starting to understand. So, from now on, your uncle will focus on managing the Seattle headquarters, and you'll be in charge of things here. You could say that. I was once again impressed by Declan's cunning. He was systematically stripping Micah of her power. The Portland Aria Grand was nothing compared to the one in Seattle, and by separating them, it would be easier for Declan to cultivate his own network. Maybe his insistence on the big city strategy was motivated by this all along. After all, opening a store in a top-tier city like Seattle would naturally lead to the headquarters moving there. If they had expanded to second- or third-tier cities, the HQ would have stayed in Portland, making it harder for him to escape Micah's influence. Of course, if I could figure this out, Micah certainly had too. After a moment of silence, I asked her, so what's your plan? Micah glanced at me. I don't want to talk about this with you. I felt a little rebuffed, but shamelessly pressed on. Then why did you wait a week to meet with Mr. Clark and Ben? You can at least tell me that, right? You're not involved? Why should I tell you? Her attitude left me speechless, but I had a feeling it was because I had repeatedly refused to join Aria Grand. I knew I wouldn't get any answers, so I finally dropped it. Micah sped up, as if she couldn't wait to drop me off and be rid of me. But just last night, we had so happily collaborated on a Pearl Jam song via WhatsApp. Why was she so cold today? A woman's mind. Truly impossible to understand. Micah dropped me off at my place and left, heading back to Seattle. Whether it was for Abner or for work, I wasn't sure. That evening, I had dinner with Ben, Mr. Clark, and Rick. Rick was also making the jump to Aria Grand with them. At Polaris, he had been part of Mr. Clark's faction. With Mr. Clark gone, there was no future for him there. Following them to Aria Grand was his best option. At least his position wouldn't be lower than what he had at Polaris. Over dinner, Mr. Clark and Ben expressed their heartfelt gratitude. The alcohol flowed freely, and the meal didn't end until I was thoroughly buzzed. On the way home, I didn't take a cab. I swayed along with the crowds on the street, letting the walk burn off the alcohol in my system. When I got tired, I sat on the curb, staring blankly at the people passing by. I hated these nights when I was alone. After drinking, I always had so much to complain about, but who was there to listen to my grievances now? I found myself missing my college days. No matter how much I drank, there was always someone who would stay with me to the end, patiently listening to my drunken ramblings. The memory of those old times filled me with melancholy. I lowered my head and lit a cigarette, regretting the drinks. Being drunk alone was so damn lonely. I pulled the clear cellophane off my cigarette pack and held it up to my eye, looking at the starry sky. But I could no longer see the city or the woman with the long hair. All I got were disgusted looks from passers-by, who all steered clear of the drunk sitting on the sidewalk. What do they know? They were all just ordinary people, drowning in their everyday lives. They would never see the city in the sky, but I would, even if it was only sometimes. The night began to swim in my head. To keep myself from passing out on the street, I decided I had to sing, even without a guitar. I pulled out my phone, found yesterday's voice chat with Micah, held down the record button, and sang my heart out. I sang her a song called Those Were the Days, my voice raw and cracking. The best thing we ever saved were those days gone by, though we were poor enough to only have joy, wearing our hand-me-down clothes. The snowy winters in this town, the sound of sleigh bells in the air, the gentle summer nights by the river, with an accordion playing somewhere. Now we've all changed our tune, chasing life day after day, but just thinking of those days gone by makes your eyes shine so bright. The best thing we ever saved will always be those days gone by, with friends raising their beers and only half a sausage on the table. After I finished, I stared at the message I'd sent, lost in the lyrics. My eyes started to burn. I thought of the lover I had once loved so deeply and of my best friends. But just as the song said, we had all changed. Those carefree years together were frozen in a time I could no longer touch, a memory that made my present self ache with nostalgia. A moment later, Micah replied, "That's such a gentle, nostalgic song. Why did you sing it like your heart was breaking? To gross you out?" I replied, my logic completely gone. It didn't gross me out. On the contrary, it was beautiful. Guess which line is my favorite? I ran through the lyrics in my head again. I didn't care which line she liked. I sent her my favorite. "The best thing we ever saved were those days gone by, though we were poor enough to only have joy, wearing our hand-me-down clothes." I lit another cigarette and waited for her reply, examining myself. In the past, I really was poor with nothing but happiness. Now I was poor with nothing but sadness. It made me long to go back to those days gone by even more. I was nearly finished with my cigarette when Micah finally replied, "You're wrong. My favorite is the snowy winters in this town, the sound of sleigh bells in the air, the gentle summer nights by the river, with an accordion playing somewhere. That one." Her answer didn't surprise me. Our different preferences were born from vastly different experiences. I loved the life described in the lyrics. She was captivated by the scenery. But what did it matter? At least we both found something in the song. I stubbed out my cigarette and, ignoring the strange looks from passers-by, lay down on the grass next to a tree. I didn't think I was making a drunken scene. I was just genuinely tired. And being tired was good. At least when I was asleep, I wouldn't hear the deafening sound of old wounds tearing open. My consciousness was starting to blur when the ringing of my phone woke me again. I struggled to answer it, mumbling a few disconnected hellos. "Leo, have you been drinking?" Faced with Micah's question, I denied it. "No way." "Then sing that song again for me, the whole thing." Under the continued influence of alcohol, my mind was a fog. I couldn't even remember the lyrics, let alone sing the whole song. I said impatiently, "A good song is never sung twice." My nonsensical answer only made Micah more suspicious. "Where are you right now?" "I know you're in Seattle right now," I continued, rambling drunkenly. Micah seemed to hear the noise of the street in the background. Her tone suddenly became stern. "Have you lost your mind? You're drunk and still wandering around on the street. Tell me where you are now." I finally told Micah my location and hung up. But what little consciousness I had left told me that it would be CC who would show up. Micah was still in Seattle. She'd send CC to deal with this drunk. I don't know how much time passed, but in my stupor, I felt someone pushing me. I was too lazy to move, and she pinched my nose and tugged my ear. I slapped her hand away. "Cut out, CC. You miss CC that much? You're muttering her name, even when you're drunk. You're such a dumbass." "You are CC," I mumbled, covering my forehead with my hand. I rolled over, still not wanting to move. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through the spot just under my nose. My eyes flew open to see Micah's angry face looming over me. "Leo, who did you just call a dumbass?" Her presence filled me with joy. I just grinned at her, speechless. "So this is what you're like when you're drunk?" Yeah. Got your camera? You should take a picture." Micah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "And do what with it?" "Use it to ward off evil spirits." My reaction time was shot. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept grinning at her. "I don't know what to do with you. Get up. I'll take you home." Micah extended her hand to me. As I took her warm, soft hand, a jolt went through me. The unexpected thrill actually managed to cut through my physical dizziness, clear my head a little. Her beautiful face came into focus, becoming sharper, more real. This wasn't a dream. It really was Micah, not CC, who I had expected to come. After she pulled me up from the ground, Micah carefully brushed the dirt off my clothes. The gesture felt like it was watering my parched soul. A wave of emotion washed over me. It had been so long since a woman had been this gentle with me. I don't know if it was the alcohol or some primal instinct, but I pulled Micah into a tight hug, so tight it was hard for me to breathe. "Leo, let go. Let go of me." Micah struggled violently, but I only held on tighter, greedily taking in her warmth and her scent. A sharp pain suddenly shot up from my foot. The agony was too much, and I finally released her, a wave of disappointment washing over me. She really did reject my embrace. Driven by my bruised pride, I fell back on my old tricks. I didn't mean anything by that hug. I was just thanking you for coming to my rescue tonight. You know, I hug CC and Jenna like that all the time to show affection." "Really? Do you hug them until they can't breathe?" I stammered, unable to come up with an answer. I realized then that in that hug, even I had found it hard to breathe, let alone Micah, who I had been crushing. I finally said to her, "Sorry about that. I almost strangled you." Micah seemed to see through my dejection. "Then show me. Hug me in a way that doesn't strangle me, like you hug CC and Jenna." I knew this was a consolation hug she was offering, but I still pathetically and gently wrapped my arms around her. I loved her scent and the warmth of our bodies together. Just as I thought this was destined to be a hollow, superficial embrace, I suddenly felt a sense of security wrap around my waist, a feeling I had been craving. Micah had gently hugged me back. In that moment, we were truly embracing. The world seemed to stand still. There was no noise, no panic, no chaos. It was such a peaceful moment. So peaceful that I wanted to drown in it and never wake up. I greedily wanted to hold on to this moment forever, and I was overcome with a frantic urge to whisper in her ear, "I like you." But I never said the words. I just stroked her long hair, trying to keep myself from collapsing into the fantasy world I had built for myself. Back at the apartment, I stumbled into my room, shed my coat, kicked off my shoes, and fell onto the bed. In my stupor, I thought the night was over, but Micah was still there, watching over me. She made me a cup of tea to sober up and brought a hot towel to wipe my face. Her almost meticulous care created an illusion in my mind. In this illusion, she was my girlfriend or a close friend like CC. But I still knew this was all self-created. If it weren't for this apartment building, we would forever exist in two separate worlds, carrying our own frustrations and loneliness, never crossing paths. I took a couple of sips of the tea and just looked at Micah, who was sitting by my bed. Her voice was soft as she asked, "Does your head still hurt? Do you feel like throwing up?" After a long pause, I answered with a non sequitur. "A woman shouldn't be too good to a man." Micah smiled. "I'm good to you because you're good to me." I fell silent, savoring her words. Suddenly, her sentence unlocked something in my mind. I had it. The marketing idea for the bar. Why do we have to care about class differences? Why couldn't the world be simpler? Simple enough that if you're good to me, I'm good to you, and the whole world is filled with warmth. That was it. I would use warmth marketing to express the bar's essence. Then I'd use social media, friend circles, to promote it. I was convinced that combining these two marketing methods would be the most effective way to convey the bar's culture and spirit to our target audience. "Leo, you look so focused. What are you thinking about?" Micah asked, puzzled. "I think I've found the marketing and promotion strategy for the bar." My voice was filled with excitement. It was a marketing plan that fit the bar's unique character, was practical, and would cost almost nothing. The goal of warmth marketing was to move consumers, to make them feel a sense of belonging to the bar. Then they would spontaneously help us with promotion in their own social networks, using platforms like Instagram or WhatsApp. And I believe that the friends of people who liked our bar would, to some extent, share a similar artistic sensibility, because people of a feather flock together. This kind of friend circle promotion would be highly targeted and completely free. The only prerequisite was to do the warmth marketing right, to truly touch their souls and give them the motivation to spread the word. I immediately explained my marketing idea to Micah. She nodded. "Using the internet as a medium will definitely save a lot of promotional costs, and targeting it to friend circles makes it even more precise. I have no doubt this idea is feasible. But the key is, how will you execute this warmth marketing to create that strong sense of belonging in customers? Our bar has the most beautiful 5th season. That's the initial motivation for creating a sense of belonging. I want to create another independent world inside the bar. This world is simple, so simple that there's no rush of daily life, just a group of friends drinking beer and listening to music together. This group of friends shares the same pursuits and aspirations. This kind of back-to-basics warmth marketing has no frills, no dazzling splendor, only sincerity and simplicity to purify weary souls." Micah seemed to enter the world I was describing. It was a long time before she said, "After hearing you talk, I really want to have a beer there, listen to a rendition of Those Were the Days, feel the change of the 4 seasons in a lazy haze, and then watch the 4 seasons merge into the most beautiful 5th season. My soul would be purified, and I'd have a wonderful sleep." Seeing the longing in her eyes, I smiled. "And when you wake up, you're already old, with half a glass of beer left on the table." That sounds wonderful. Even if a lifetime passes in a daze, my heart would always be calm and composed. I love that feeling. I imagine that half glass of beer, a single song, and a lifetime passing by, and my own heart felt just as peaceful and serene. After a long moment, I said to Micah, "I love it too." At that moment, my heart was overflowing with the desire to express myself. I fought through my drunken dizziness, opened my laptop, and prepared to turn my ideas into a complete, written plan. The desk lamp cast a soft glow. To my left was a steaming cup of lemon tea. To my right was Micah, her chin resting on her hand, quietly keeping me company. Even though a fierce wind was raging outside, this small room was quiet and warm. After a long while, Micah fell asleep, her head pillowed on her arms at the corner of the desk. The sound of her even breathing made the night even more peaceful and serene. I gazed at her neck, and the calm lake of my heart suddenly rippled. She was the colorful leaf that had gently fallen onto its surface. I carefully lifted her into my arms, carried her back to her own room, tucked her in, and turned off the light. On the way out of her room, I let her lingering gentleness submerge me in the boundless night. The next day when I woke up, Micah was already gone. I still hadn't had the chance to make her breakfast, nor had I had the chance to find out why she had rushed back to Portland from Seattle last night. If only it was just for me in my drunken state. Or maybe she was already back in town when she called me. Otherwise, how could she have found me so quickly? I spent the entire morning in this state of speculation until I finally got tired of it around noon. I remembered the simple, unadorned life Micah and I had talked about yesterday. Why was I making things so complicated and messy for myself? It would be better to hold on to that peaceful feeling and wait patiently for fate to arrange for us to be together. Another week flew by. Tomorrow was the official opening day of the 5th season music bar. All day, CC and I were busy at the bar. It wasn't until late afternoon that we finally had a moment to spare. We sat down in a corner, each lit a cigarette, and started talking. The conversation naturally turned to Khloe and Robin. I took a deep drag of my cigarette and exhaled a cloud of smoke. For the grand opening this time, are Robin and Khloe not coming back? I just talked to them this morning. They're both busy. They're not coming back. I grunted in acknowledgement, a little disappointed. I had hoped they would come back and see the transformed bar with their own eyes. After all, this place was the fruit of everyone's hard work. CC added, New Year's is coming up soon. I was hoping they could come back to Portland and celebrate with us, but it looks like that's not happening either. What? You're not going back to Chongqing for the holidays this year? My parents are both in Hong Kong with my older sister. There's no point in me going back alone. I'd rather stay in Portland. I smiled. Your parents must be tired of you not getting married. Huh? Compared to you, your older sister is much less trouble. Give me a break. Everyone has different priorities. What do you think my sister sees in that little old man from Hong Kong? It's just money. I could never do that. Your brother-in-law is only in his 40s, right? How did he become a little old man to you? I chuckled. CC rolled her eyes at me. He's almost bald. Isn't he a little old man? But that little old man is really good to my sister, and he's good to my parents too. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to drift around out here all these years so carefree. I nodded. In that respect, CC really did have her little old man from Hong Kong to thank. But she probably wasn't entirely right. I believe her sister had real feelings for him. After all, he had given her not just money, but also his heart. As CC and I were chatting, the bar door suddenly opened. A man and a woman in sunglasses stood before us. Then, I heard CC surprised cry, Khloe, Robin, didn't you guys say you weren't coming back? Khloe took off her sunglasses and opened her arms to CC. The two of them embraced. Khloe smiled and said, Tomorrow is the bar's opening day. No matter how busy Robin and I are, we had to make time to come back. How's that for a surprise? Men don't express their emotions as dramatically as women. I just tossed a cigarette to Robin, and we exchanged a smile, but the surprise in my heart was no less than CC's at seeing Khloe. After her hug with CC, Khloe finally came over to me. I looked her over and realized that her clothes and style had become much more mature. Her eyes held a new sharpness, with less of the vulnerability from before. I knew that life and disaster had changed the woman in front of me. The only thing that hadn't changed was the way she spoke. After a brief silence, she said to me, Leo, long time no see. Yeah, I replied. This wasn't our old rhythm. Before, a hug upon meeting would have been a given. Khloe stood about 3 feet away from me, looking around the bar. Her voice held a hint of pleasure. The renovation looks great. You've worked hard. I joked with her just like old times. Khloe, my superstar, don't talk like a stranger. Can't you see I'm just using your bar to fulfill my own artistic needs and rebrand myself as an artsy intellectual? In this day and age, you avoid being a dumbass whenever you can. Khloe smiled and shook her head. You're still such a smartass. I instinctively wanted to reply, but you're not as cheerful anymore, but I swallowed the words. It would have made the atmosphere heavy. At least in this simple, unadorned bar, we shouldn't be talking about the weight of life. The few of us sat down and started chatting again. But this was destined to be an eventful evening. Ben and Jenna and Ava would also be coming to see the renovated bar soon. And Micah and Abner would also be stopping by to show their support. We had arranged it yesterday. And Khloe, Ava, and Micah, the 3 women connected to this bar, were about to be in the same room for the very first time. A staff member brought us some drinks and beer. The 4 of us passed the time, drinking and chatting, waiting for the others to arrive. How have the last few days in New York been? I asked Robin. He exhaled a thick cloud of smoke, a hint of weariness in his voice. Busy. Robin was a born-and-bred city kid with a chip on his shoulder. For him to be so busy that he was reduced to one-word answers meant he was truly swamped. CC turned to Khloe. Superstar, what about you? Busy as hell too, right? I've seen you on TV a bunch of times with your director, promoting your new show. Khloe nodded. Yeah, I have another interview to tape the day after tomorrow. I can't stay in Portland for long. This year is completely booked. Right after New Year's, I'm heading to the set for my second project. CC sighed. Once your first show airs nationwide, that superstar title will be well and truly earned. Khloe just smiled, took a sip of her beer, and fell silent. Her silence only magnified the change in her. A short while later, Ben, Ava, and Jenna arrived. They greeted us as they came in. Among the people present, only Ava and Khloe were meeting for the first time. Everyone else knew each other. The two of them sized each other up. Finally, CC made the introductions, presenting each as her friend, without mentioning me. Khloe smiled at Ava. So you're Ava. I've been hearing your name for almost 2 years. Ava immediately glanced at me, then asked Khloe, what do you mean by that? To be precise, Leo has been missing you for 2 years. You're very beautiful, Khloe said matter-of-factly. I was truly grateful that Nathan wasn't here. Khloe's words would have undoubtedly caused a misunderstanding. Once again, it was CC who saved the day. She ushered them to a table and had a waiter bring over some drinks. After Ava sat down, Khloe took a bank card from her purse and handed it to her. This bar is mine, so the $60,000 you lent Leo was really lent to me. There's $61,000 on this card to cover the interest as well. Thank you for your generosity back then. I stared at Khloe stunned. That day, I had only told her I'd borrowed money from a friend, without specifying who. How did she know it was Ava? Or was it just a calculated guess? Ben and Jenna exchanged a look. They had no idea Ava had lent me $60,000. That day we had all had dinner together when Nathan asked Ava if she had any spare cash to lend me. Ava had firmly said no. I was once again thankful that Nathan wasn't here. Ava stared at Khloe with a complicated expression for a long moment, but didn't take the card. I lent that money to Leo. It should be him who pays it back. And I lent it to him as a friend, so there's no need to mention interest. The atmosphere became awkward with Ava's refusal. To break the tension, I took the card from Khloe's hand and said to Ava, leave me your account number later. I'll transfer it to you tomorrow. Ava nodded, and the awkwardness over the repayment was temporarily smoothed over. But I knew that when Micah arrived later, the scene might play out all over again. I weighed my options and said to Khloe, come outside with me. I need to talk to you about something. In the bar's small back office, Khloe and I sat on the sofa. Before I could speak, she beat me to it. I know you must be suspicious about where this money came from. Don't worry. It's the fee I got for signing with the production company. It's clean. I nodded. I trust you not to make the same mistake again. I paused for a moment before asking, how did you know the $60,000 was from Ava? Khloe smiled. I know all your friends. The rich ones might not be willing to lend, and the willing ones might not have the money. But the ex-girlfriend you can't forget is the exception. At first, I wasn't sure. I thought it might have been Micah. But then Micah gave me that check for $100,000, and I knew the first $60,000 had to be from your ex. Khloe's explanation made me realize she wasn't as carefree as she seemed. Like how she had seen through my fake relationship with Micah, and now how she had deduced the true source of the money. Her mind was sharper, more intricate than most. After a moment of silence, Khloe's voice became low. Leo, do you know when I figured out that $60,000 came from your ex-girlfriend, I felt an indescribable pressure in my chest. From that day on, I told myself, no matter what, I will never let you suffer that kind of humiliation again. So when I got to New York, I worked very hard, and I was very lucky. I seized an opportunity for myself. Her voice choked up at this point, and my heart skipped a beat. I was terrified that behind her hard work and luck was a brutal self-sacrifice. Khloe quickly composed herself. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I will never forget it in this lifetime. I tried to comfort her with a joke. Superstar, you're so dramatic both on and off screen. Isn't it exhausting? But then again, the thought of being remembered by a future movie star does give me a sense of accomplishment. Khloe finally smiled. She then took another bank card from her purse and handed it to me. This one is from Micah. Please give it back to her for me. I know it's not great to pay people back in front of everyone, but I just can't stand being indebted to your ex-girlfriend. Every second I owe her, I feel uncomfortable. She caused you so much pain, and she didn't know how to cherish you. One day, she'll regret it. Khloe and I returned to the main room of the bar. We had barely sat down when Micah arrived with Abner in tow. Once again, CC played the role of introducer, presenting Micah and Abner to everyone. With their arrival, the impending night became even more complicated. Micah and Abner sat together, maintaining the maximum possible distance from me. I tossed a cigarette to Robin and Ben, then offered one to Abner. "Smoke." Abner gave me a cold look. "Don't you think it's rude to smoke in front of so many women?" I immediately tossed the pack on the table. A part of me wanted to punch him. With his comment, I was damned if I did, damned if I didn't. He seemed to exist solely to make me feel awkward. But he was right. It really wasn't appropriate to smoke in front of all these women. I was just so used to my rough ways that I had overlooked my surroundings. Just as I was caught in this dilemma, Robin picked up a lighter and with a click, lit his cigarette. He glanced at the Ivy League turtle and started smoking as if nothing had happened. I couldn't help but admire him. That born-and-bred city kid had a level of I don't give a damn that not just anyone could possess. Of course, I knew he was doing it to back me up. The atmosphere became tense again, but I didn't follow Robin's lead. I didn't want to complicate the night any further. So I had a staff member bring over some promotional flyers and coupons. "Since everyone is here today, let's go out and celebrate together." Everyone looked at me, confused. I turned to Micah. "Ms. Me, would it be a problem to borrow a space at Aria Grand for a small concert?" "Now." "Yes, right now." Then I turned to Robin. "Robin, call up the rest of the band. Tell them to bring the gear and meet us at Aria Grand. After the show, I'm treating everyone to beer and hot pot." I grabbed the guitar I had prepared earlier from behind me. I felt that the only way to get this complicated group of people through a peaceful and celebratory night was with music. Among those present, CC, Robin, Micah, Ava, and myself were all skilled musicians. I was sure the Ivy League turtle wasn't bad either, since he was the one who had taught Micah to play guitar. This impromptu concert, with its gathering of talent and beauties, was bound to cause a storm at Aria Grand. My proposal was met with enthusiasm. We all drove over to Aria Grand. On the way, Micah called the mall's operations manager to arrange for a temporary space and power for our equipment. By the time we arrived, they had already efficiently set up a spot for us. Robin, Ben, and I carried in some promotional displays for the bar from our cars. After a quick setup, the space already had a bit of an advertising vibe. While we waited for the band to arrive, Micah, Khloe, Jenna, and Ava helped hand out flyers. CC, Robin, and I tuned our guitars. As the flyers were distributed, a crowd began to gather, but their curiosity wasn't about the bar we were promoting. It was about the women handing out the flyers. Khloe was even recognized several times by sharp-eyed shoppers. Although her show hadn't officially aired yet, she had participated in many promotional events with the cast and had gained some recognition. Eventually, overwhelmed by the attention, she had to put on her sunglasses and a mask and stop handing out flyers. A little while later, the rest of the band finally arrived. Their uniform rock and roll style attracted even more curious onlookers. Before we had even started playing, we had already drawn a large crowd. The band members efficiently set up and tuned their equipment. The rest of us began to discuss who would sing the opening song and what kind of song would fit the bar's theme. In the end, we settled on Those Were the Days as the opening number. Our eyes unanimously landed on Micah. Micah looked at us, puzzled. "You want me to sing the opening song?" Robin nodded. "Your voice is gentle and delicate. You can sing this sad song with a touch of warmth. Aria Grand is your home turf," I added. "You should be the first one up." Abner chimed in. "You're the most beautiful woman here. If you sing first, you'll attract the most attention." His comment instantly cooled the mood. While the Ivy League turtle was speaking the truth, with so many other beautiful women present, it was just asking for trouble. Micah was also embarrassed by his words. Luckily, we had CC, the master of de-escalation. She took Micah's hand and said, "We're just having fun. Think of it as breaking the ice." Robin and I chimed in. "Come on, girl. We'll back you up." Micah finally nodded and took the guitar CC handed her. Robin took the keyboard, I took the bass, and CC took the accordion. We were all ready, waiting for Micah, who was destined to be the center of attention. Micah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She stood in the center of the temporary stage. The move sent a wave of excitement through the Aria Grand staff. After all, Micah was their CEO. This performance was a rare sight for them. But they didn't dare get too close, instead leaning over the railings on the second and third floors, whispering among themselves as they eagerly awaited her song. Just as we were about to start playing, Micah held up a hand to stop us. She took the microphone from its stand and, after a brief silence, addressed the crowd. "Tomorrow is the grand opening of the 5th Season Music Bar. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to recommend this bar to all of you. If this world were a desolate desert, then this bar would be a gem sparkling with rainbow colors in that desert. It may be small, but it's enough to comfort our weary souls. If life feels heavy, please come and sit for a while. You might have a different experience. A song for you all. Those were the days. After her speech, Micah placed the microphone back on its stand, closed her eyes, and gently strummed her guitar. I was a little dazed. This woman was truly wise and thoughtful. When everyone else had forgotten to promote the bar, she remembered. Her eloquent description, though short, already conveyed a sense of peace and simplicity, no less effective than ad copy written by a top agency. Micah's quiet, warm voice drifted through them all with our accompaniment. Her voice seemed to have a magical power to calm people. The once noisy mall fell silent. Even shoppers who didn't stop to watch walked past us quietly, as if afraid to disturb the natural tranquility. During the chorus, CC improvised a harmony, adding a layer of nostalgic longing to the song. It was as if the listeners were drifting between the warmth of spring and the melancholy of autumn. Everyone was captivated. The music faded, and still they looked on, wanting more. After a long moment, a single person clapped, and then the applause erupted. When the applause died down, I picked up the microphone. I'm sure you were all so engrossed, not just because of the singer's beauty. If it were just for her looks, I think she'd be angry. After all, she's not just a pretty face. The crowd let out a collective, good-natured laugh. Micah shot me a glare and whispered, "You can't help but be a smartass, even at a time like this." Robin was even more brilliant, playing a short, light-hearted tune on the keyboard, which further livened up the atmosphere. I smiled and continued, "If you like this song, if you like the quiet strength in her voice, then you absolutely cannot miss the Fifth Season Music Bar. It will be a magical experience, a chance to enjoy the beauty of the changing seasons through the charm of music." I paused for a moment and added, "If anyone here is interested in the Fifth Season Music Bar, you can get a free discount coupon from our staff. With this coupon, you'll not only get a discount, but also a free beer. I hope you won't miss out." After I finished, a few Aria Grand staff members, summoned by Micah, began distributing coupons to the crowd. The scene was orderly, with no pushing and no lack of interest. It proved that the customers who shopped at Aria Grand were a high-quality crowd, which also fit the profile of our target audience. They valued emotional experiences more than material temptations. The coupon was just a tool to help them remember the bar. After her song, Micah handed the stage over to the others. I was truly grateful to her. As the CEO of Aria Grand, she had not only provided such a prime location, but also acted as a staff member for the bar. Given her status, it was truly remarkable. Following the ladies' first principle, the group pushed for Ava to sing the second song. Ava didn't refuse and stood in the center of the small stage. She took the microphone from the stand and said to us, "Unfortunately, I don't play guitar, so I'll have to trouble you all for the accompaniment." I smiled and swapped my bass for a guitar. "What song do you want to sing?" "We'd be honored to serve." Ava gave me a grateful look and then fell into thought. This was the second song, so it couldn't be chosen randomly. It had to fit the bar's theme. A loud, noisy song, for example, would be out of place. I waited with anticipation. Compared to Micah, Ava's voice and emotional expression were in no way inferior, just different in style. After a moment's thought, Ava said to us, "Let's do Close to You." When Ava named the song, I looked at Robin. The classic Carpenter's hit, with its jazzy, bluesy feel, was a real test of piano skill. Robin smiled at me. Piece of cake. Only then did I relax. I wanted this song to be performed perfectly. It was Ava's favorite. I remembered one year on my birthday, she had gone to a recording studio to record it for me as a gift. I kept it on my phone, but that phone had been thrown into the Willamette River during a drunken fit on the day of Ben and Jenna's wedding. The song had sunk to the bottom of the river, lost forever. I suppose when all these coincidences line up, it's what they call fate. I took a deep breath, gave Robin a look, and we started playing together. Ava's graceful body swayed gently to the lazy rhythm. Robin's technique was superb, and Ava's voice was rich and full of feminine charm. Her English was fluent, and she delivered the song perfectly. Even I, playing guitar, was lost in the relaxing melody, until she reached the final verse. "On the day that you were born, the angels got together and decided to create a dream come true. So they sprinkled moon dust in your hair of gold and starlight in your eyes of blue. That is why all the girls in town follow you all around. Just like me, they long to be close to you." A suffocating feeling suddenly gripped my chest. She used to care about me so much, and I cared about her. When she sent me that song, I had listened to it on repeat for a whole day. Even in the dark, hopeless nights after we broke up, I wasn't afraid of the torture of nostalgia. I would listen to it over and over, smoking until my lungs ached, until my heart ached. In my suffocating daze, I hit a wrong note, marring what should have been a perfect song. But the audience didn't mind. Many of them even took out their phones to record Ava's performance. She was too beautiful, and her voice was even more beautiful. The impact was no less than Micah's. The crowd started whispering among themselves again, naturally curious about the bar's background. Why were there so many beautiful women singing for it? Whether it was Ava or Micah, they were in no way inferior to so-called celebrities. Even Khloe, who was in the entertainment industry, could at best be considered their equal in looks and wouldn't dare call herself a beauty in their presence. But I couldn't be bothered with any of that. I was still kicking myself for that one wrong note. I even wanted to ask Robin and Ava to do it again with me. But I knew that was impossible. That wrong note was like our love. It had a beautiful beginning and middle, but it also had a terrible ending that could negate everything. We were destined never to start over. So that wrong note felt more like a summary of a love that had been carved into my bones. After the song ended, I used the excuse of going to the restroom to leave the scene. I hid in the bathroom, smoking, trying to calm my emotions. At that moment, I hated the past that had been accidentally dredged up, and I hated myself even more. Why was I still getting distracted and hurt by nostalgia when Ava had already started a new relationship? Was I really still in love with her? No, that wasn't it. I didn't love her anymore. I loved the happiness and ease of our time together. As I was finishing my cigarette, Robin came into the restroom. As he unzipped his fly, he said, "Yo, can you smell nostalgia in here or something?" He trailed off with a shiver. I shot back, "You talk just like you piss. What's that supposed to mean? You can't finish a sentence." "Fuck, you're a real son of a bitch, you know that." I didn't say anything, just lit another cigarette. Robin washed his hands and came over, taking one from my pack. He took a deep drag and exhaled heavily before saying, "You shouldn't have messed up that note." I understood what he meant. I took another deep drag myself. What's done is done. Let's just call it flawed beauty. Robin looked thoughtful. After a long silence, he sighed. "I actually get it. The song is called Close to You, but the two of you are just getting further and further apart. It's like me. This time I went back to New York, I was so close to her, but I didn't have the guts to even ask about her. The distance between us didn't shrink just because I was in the same city." I nodded. I knew that on this point, Robin and I were kindred spirits, both unable to let go. Those who couldn't understand just hadn't seen the deeply etched memories of our pasts. I thought that for the two of us to not deliberately dwell on the past was already a rare kind of resolution. But the unexpected waves of nostalgia were impossible to fend off, like that performance of Close to You. After we finished our cigarettes, Robin and I went back out to the event. The Ivy League turtle was singing. That explained why Robin had taken a bathroom break. But I had to admit, he was a talented singer. He was playing the keyboard and singing, and his skill was on par with a professional musician like Robin. No wonder some of the younger girls were staring at him like he was a pop star. He had a face a bit like a young heartthrob, and he looked at everyone with such deep emotion. And accompanying him on guitar was Micah. They had a perfect, seamless chemistry, exchanging knowing glances from time to time. The combination of the handsome man and the beautiful woman drew an even larger crowd. Then, I heard some bored person yell out, "Get together!" And then a whole group of bored people echoed the sentiment. I just watched quietly. I thought they looked good together. Not only was he handsome and she beautiful, but they were also a good match in terms of social status. If they did get together, it would be a match made in heaven. Robin, who had been standing next to me, nudged me. "Leo, look at them, all deep and soulful. They might just hold hands. One's playing guitar, one's playing piano. How are they going to hold hands?" As soon as the words left my mouth, Abner stood up from the piano and walked toward Micah. The cheering crowd had obviously given him a boost of courage. My heart jumped into my throat. Is he going to confess his love right here? It turned out I was worrying for nothing. The Ivy League turtle just extended his hand to Micah. Micah smiled, stopped playing, and took his hand. He started singing a cappella, and still, the crowd erupted in applause. Seeing this, Robin said to me again, "Leo, are you dying to say, unhand that fair maiden right now?" I remained unfazed. It's just stage etiquette for a duet. What's the big deal? Why would I say something like that? Robin sighed and then smiled. "You know, I'm actually kind of envious of you. At least you have the desire to like another woman. I don't know how much longer I have to suffer." After a long pause, I also sighed. "Maybe your love was just more profound, but one day, you'll fall in love with another girl." I paused and added, "I hope that girl is CC." Robin glanced at CC, who was standing a short distance away, but didn't say anything. Maybe his heart was still with that girl in New York. Sometimes I was really curious. I hoped I would have a chance to meet her one day, to see what special magic she had to make a rebellious man like Robin pine for her for so many years. In my brief moment of distraction, the Ivy League turtle and Micah had finished their song. Jenna, acting as the MC, held the microphone and said to me, "Leo, it's your turn. Get your song ready, and then pick one of the lovely ladies here to sing with you. I'm sure on such a happy day, none of them will refuse." I snapped back to reality. I immediately knew what song I wanted to sing, but then I was hit with a moment of indecision. All these women were dazzlingly beautiful. Who the hell was I supposed to choose?